Copyright 2025 Compassionate Living Books LLC, all rights reserved. How to Not Mess Up Your Kids Audiobook Edition. Written by Magdalena Szopa. Narrated by Alloy. No part of this audiobook may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, including electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission from the publisher, except for brief quotations used in reviews or other permitted uses under applicable copyright law. This audiobook is provided for informational and educational purposes only. It is not medical advice, mental health advice, legal advice, or a substitute for professional care. Parenting and child development are complex, and every child and family situation is different. The author and publisher make no guarantees about outcomes. If you are concerned about your child's safety, your own mental health, or your ability to parent safely, seek help from a qualified professional in your area. In an emergency, call 911 or your local emergency number. Any names, identifying details, or stories are either used with permission or have been changed to protect privacy. Any resemblance to actual persons or events is coincidental. Published by Compassionate Living Books LLC, United States of America. First Audiobook Edition, 2025. How to Not Mess Up Your Kids, An Honest Guide to Raising Emotionally Healthy Adults, by Magdalena Szopa. Introduction. I became a mom just 2 weeks after turning 16 years old. Let me start there, because I want you to know that I am not writing this book from some perfect ivory tower position. I am not judging. I am not pretending that I have all the answers. I am simply a mom who has been in the thick of parenting for more than 27 years. I have made mistakes, plenty of them. I have messed up, learned, unlearned, and tried again. I am the mother of 2 children. One is 27, already an adult making his own way. My younger is 9, and he has autism and intellectual disability. Parenting both of them has taught me in the hardest and most beautiful ways possible that love is not enough. Yes, you heard me right. Loving your kids is not enough. You can love your children with every cell in your body and still end up damaging them if you are not careful. Parenting is serious business. The way we raise our children becomes the foundation of how they see themselves, how they handle relationships, and how they move through the world. If we mess that up, the effects are forever. Even with years of therapy, some wounds never fully heal. This book is not about teaching your kids how to be successful in the narrow way our society defines it. Not about straight A's, college admissions, trophies, or climbing corporate ladders. My goal here is to strip away all that noise and talk about what really matters. Raising children who are emotionally healthy. Because here is the truth. A child who grows up emotionally healthy is already prepared for adulthood. They can build meaningful friendships, find love that is not toxic, and navigate the world with resilience. Success, the real kind, the kind that means contentment, stability, and joy, will follow naturally. But if a child grows up carrying shame, fear, rejection, or confusion planted in them by their parents, every single step of their adult life will be heavier. So let us be clear. The job of a parent is not just to feed and clothe a child, not just to keep them safe from cars on the street or to teach them how to brush their teeth. The job of a parent is to prepare a child for adulthood by protecting their body, mind, and spirit. It is to treat them as full human beings from the very beginning. It is to show them how to regulate their emotions, how to respect themselves, how to connect with others without losing themselves. This book is blunt because parenting deserves bluntness. Too many kids grow up carrying pain that never belonged to them. Too many kids spend their adult lives in therapy, trying to untangle knots their parents tied. My goal is to show you, clearly and without sugarcoating, the ways parents mess this up and how to stop doing it. If you have messed up before, welcome to the club. So have I. That is not the point. The point is to recognize it, own it, and change it. Because children do not get a second childhood. We as parents do not get a redo either. What we do now today matters for the rest of their lives. Chapter 1. Shaming and Criticism. Parenting is not a performance review, but many children grow up feeling like they are constantly being graded. Shaming and criticism are among the most common ways parents unintentionally cut into the self-worth of their kids. They may believe they are motivating their children to do better. They may believe they are instilling discipline. In reality, they are planting the seeds of lifelong shame, insecurity, and self-doubt. Why parents shame? Parents often shame without realizing it. They repeat what they heard growing up. They may be stressed, impatient, or afraid of how their child's behavior reflects on them. The words slip out easily. Why can't you be more like your brother? You are so lazy. You never do anything right. Even eye-rolling or sighs can carry shaming messages. For some parents, shame is a tool. They think humiliation will teach a lesson. Others justify criticism as tough love. But research has shown that shame does not lead to better behavior. It leads to silence, rebellion, or perfectionism. None of these outcomes are healthy for a child's long-term emotional life. How the child hears it. A child does not separate their actions from their identity the way adults do. When a parent says, "You are so careless," the child does not think, "My action was careless." They think, "I am careless." When a parent says, "You are too sensitive," the child does not think, "I should regulate my feelings better." They think, "My feelings are wrong. I am wrong." This is where shame is different from guilt. Guilt says, "I did something bad." Shame says, "I am bad." According to researcher Brené Brown, shame corrodes the part of us that believes we can change and be worthy of love. For children, whose identities are still forming, that corrosion can be permanent. The long-term damage, shaming, and criticism do not disappear when the child grows up. They echo. Adults who were raised under a steady diet of shaming often carry an inner voice that continues the criticism long after the parent is gone. That voice becomes the soundtrack of their lives. You are not good enough. You are stupid. You are not worthy. Children who are shamed regularly may develop perfectionism. They chase flawless performance in school, work, or relationships, terrified of criticism. Anxiety and depression. The internalized voice of judgment creates constant self-doubt. Avoidant attachment. They struggle to connect deeply with others because intimacy feels risky. Anger and rebellion. Some children, especially teenagers, externalize shame as rage, breaking rules to assert control. Bessel van der Kolk, in The Body Keeps the Score, explains how childhood humiliation imprints on the nervous system. A child whose worth is consistently attacked learns to stay on high alert. Their body is ready for rejection at any moment. This chronic stress rewires the brain, influencing everything from attention to immune health. Stories from real life. Consider a teenager who hears daily, "You are fat, no one will love you." She grows up and enters adulthood believing her body is unworthy. She may date people who treat her poorly, accepting crumbs because she was taught she does not deserve more. Or imagine a boy who hears, "You are useless, you will never achieve anything." He works obsessively, excelling in school and later in his career, but the inner voice never quiets. No matter how much he achieves, he feels like a fraud. He is not motivated by joy or curiosity, but by fear of being worthless. I have seen this play out in my own life and in the lives of people I love. Parents may forget the words they said in anger or disappointment, but children rarely forget the moments they were made to feel small. Why therapy cannot always fix it. Therapy helps. It gives people language, validation, and coping strategies. But the reason shaming can never be fully undone is because it shapes the foundation of identity. If you grow up believing you are unworthy, every later experience is filtered through that belief. Therapy can build new layers, but the cracks remain underneath. Attachment researchers John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth showed that early interactions with caregivers shape attachment style. If a child learns that love is conditional, tied to performance or obedience, they may develop anxious or avoidant attachment. These patterns show up in adult relationships and are resistant to change because they are wired into the nervous system during development. Why parents do it anyway. Why do parents continue to shame even when they know it hurts? Partly because it is easy. It takes seconds to say, "You are so ungrateful." It takes patience and emotional regulation to say, "I feel hurt when you do not acknowledge what I do for you." Shaming is a shortcut. It releases parental frustration. Unfortunately, the cost is paid by the child. Parents also shame because they are carrying their own unhealed wounds. A parent who was humiliated as a child may unconsciously repeat the pattern, believing it is normal. This is how generational cycles of trauma continue. Cultural influences. In some cultures, shaming is seen as discipline. Children are criticized harshly to push them toward excellence. Public humiliation is used to enforce obedience. But research consistently shows that this approach backfires. Children raised in high-shame environments may excel on paper but carry invisible wounds. They may achieve, but they do not thrive. Alice Miller, in The Drama of the Gifted Child, described how children adapt to shaming by becoming what their parents want. They suppress their true selves to earn approval. As adults, they may struggle to know who they really are because their entire identity was built around avoiding criticism. Everyday examples of shaming. Shaming is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is subtle. Correcting a child's grammar harshly instead of listening to their story. Criticizing a drawing instead of praising the effort. Comparing a child to a sibling. Why can't you be more like your sister? Rolling eyes at a child's excitement, signaling their joy is silly. Each small moment sends the same message: you are not enough as you are. The right way to handle this is 1. Separate the child from the behavior. Instead of saying, "You are lazy," say, "I noticed you did not finish your homework. Let's talk about what got in the way." 2. Focus on effort, not outcome. Praise the process. "I can see you worked hard on this," rather than only praising results. 3. Use curiosity, not judgment. Ask, "What were you feeling when that happened?" Instead of declaring, "You always mess things up." 4. Model self-compassion. When you make mistakes, own them without shame. Children learn how to treat themselves by watching you. 5. Apologize when you slip. If you criticize in anger, repair it. "I should not have said that. I was frustrated, but it was wrong to call you names." 6. Encourage expression. Teach your child that emotions are safe to share. Instead of silencing sensitivity, honor it as a strength. Closing reflection. Shaming and criticism may seem small in the moment, but for a child, they are seismic. The words echo. They shape how a child sees themselves, how they form relationships, and how they navigate adulthood. A parent's voice becomes the child's inner voice. If that voice is filled with contempt, the child learns contempt for themselves. The right way to handle this is correct without condemning, guide without humiliating, and build self-worth instead of tearing it down. Because once shame takes root, it lives in the body, and no amount of later success can erase the feeling of never being good enough. Chapter 2. Ignoring feelings. The silent message that emotions do not matter. When parents ignore their children's feelings, they send a message louder than words. Emotions are not important, and by extension, you are not important. This is not always intentional. Many parents think they are teaching resilience, toughness, or self-control. Others are uncomfortable with emotions themselves and simply shut them down. But to a child, the effect is the same. Their inner world is dismissed. Their reality is denied. And the cost of that denial can last a lifetime. Why parents ignore feelings. There are many reasons parents silence emotions. Some of them are cultural. In many families, emotions are viewed as weaknesses. Crying is punished. Anger is forbidden. Vulnerability is mocked. The family motto becomes, "We don't talk about feelings here." Some of it is generational. A parent who grew up with their own emotions ignored may never have learned how to validate others. If your parents told you to toughen up, you may find yourself repeating those same words to your child, even if you swore you never would. And some of it is practical. Parents are tired, stressed, and overwhelmed. It may feel easier to shut a child down than to listen. "You're fine. Stop crying. Get over it." Those words may be convenient in the moment, but they chip away at the child's sense of being understood. How the child hears it. Children are born with big feelings. Their emotions overwhelm their small bodies. They cry loudly, rage fully, laugh freely. When a parent dismisses or ignores those emotions, the child does not think, "My parent is stressed." They think, "My feelings are wrong. My feelings do not matter. I do not matter." A toddler who falls and cries only to hear, "You're fine, stop crying," learns to mistrust their own body signals. A 6-year-old who is anxious about school and hears, "Don't be silly, there's nothing to worry about," learns that their fear is invalid. A teenager who is heartbroken and hears, "It's just puppy love, get over it," learns that their pain is trivial. The common thread is this: the child's inner reality is denied. Over time, this denial becomes self-denial. The child learns to bury their emotions, mistrust their instincts, and silence their own voice. The long-term damage. When feelings are ignored in childhood, the consequences stretch far into adulthood. Ignoring emotions does not make them disappear, it drives them underground. And what goes underground does not vanish, it festers. Children raised with emotional invalidation may develop alexithymia, the inability to identify or describe feelings. These adults often say, "I don't know what I feel." Difficulty with intimacy, because closeness requires sharing emotions and they never learned how. Suppressed anger, which leaks out as passive aggression, outbursts, or chronic resentment. Anxiety and depression, because denied emotions twist inward, becoming symptoms. Insecure attachment, because connection never felt safe or validating. Psychologist John Bowlby emphasized that attachment is not just about physical safety, but emotional responsiveness. A child who is fed and clothed but ignored emotionally may survive, but they will not thrive. Bessel van der Kolk notes in The Body Keeps the Score that trauma is not only what happens to us, but also what is not acknowledged. For many children, the trauma is silence. Their sadness was not seen, their fear was brushed aside, their joy was dismissed. The body remembers that absence as pain. Everyday examples of ignoring feelings. Ignoring emotions is not always harsh. Often it sounds deceptively gentle. There's nothing to be afraid of. You'll be fine. Don't cry. It's not that big of a deal. Other kids have it worse. Parents may think these statements are reassuring, but reassurance without validation is invalidation. The child does not hear comfort. They hear, "You are wrong for feeling what you feel." Consider two scenarios. A child falls on the playground and cries. One parent says, "You're fine, stop crying." Another parent says, "That looked like it hurt. I know you're scared. You're safe now." The first teaches suppression. The second teaches recognition and regulation. Both parents may want the child to calm down, but only one teaches the child that their feelings matter. Why therapy cannot always undo. This therapy can teach adults how to notice and name emotions. It can help them relearn emotional vocabulary and build regulation skills. But the early wound remains. Adults who grew up with ignored feelings often struggle to trust that anyone truly cares. Even in therapy, they may resist opening up, fearing dismissal. Emotional neglect is sometimes called an invisible trauma. Unlike physical abuse, there are no scars. Unlike explosive fights, there are no memories of violence. But the absence itself is damaging. As Dr. Jonas Webb explains in Running on Empty, children who grow up emotionally ignored often feel hollow, disconnected, and unworthy, even if nothing bad happened. Stories that stay with us. A girl grows up in a family where anger is forbidden. Whenever she expresses frustration, she is told, "Don't be ungrateful." As an adult, she avoids conflict at all costs. She cannot say no. She cannot stand up for herself. She marries a partner who takes advantage of her silence. A boy grows up in a family where sadness is mocked. Crying is for babies, his father says. As an adult, he cannot process grief. When his best friend dies, he feels numb, detached, unable to mourn. His body aches, his sleep is restless, but he cannot cry. These are not rare cases. They are everywhere. Emotional neglect hides behind polished family photos and clean report cards. The child looks fine. Inside, they are not. Why parents repeat this pattern? Parents often ignore feelings because emotions are uncomfortable. Listening requires patience. Validation requires empathy. It is easier to shut emotions down than to sit with them. Parents who never had their own feelings validated may genuinely believe ignoring emotions builds toughness. They are wrong. What it builds is emptiness. Cultural myths play a role. Boys don't cry. Good girls don't get angry. These messages strip children of their full humanity. Boys learn to disconnect from tenderness. Girls learn to suppress power. Both grow up half alive. The science of emotional validation research shows that children who grow up with emotional validation develop stronger self-regulation. When parents acknowledge emotions, naming them, accepting them, helping the child navigate them, children learn that feelings are signals, not threats. They become better able to soothe themselves, empathize with others, and handle stress. Dr. Daniel Siegel calls this "name it to tame it." When parents help children label emotions, the brain's emotional center calms. Over time, children internalize this skill. Ignoring feelings does the opposite. It leaves emotions chaotic and overwhelming because they were never named, never understood. The right way to handle this is 1. Acknowledge before fixing. When your child cries, start with, "I see you're upset," before offering solutions. 2. Validate all emotions, not all behaviors. Anger is okay. Hitting is not. Teach the difference. 3. Use feeling words often. Build an emotional vocabulary: sad, scared, excited, proud, frustrated. 4. Stay present with discomfort. Do not rush to silence tears or distract from pain. Sit with it. 5. Model openness. Share your own feelings appropriately. "I feel nervous about this meeting, but I know I can handle it." 6. Repair when you fail. If you dismiss feelings in the moment, circle back. "Earlier I said you'd be fine, but I should have listened. Tell me how you're feeling." Closing reflection. Ignoring feelings may seem harmless compared to yelling or hitting, but silence is not neutral. Silence is a message. And the message is, your emotions do not matter. You do not matter. Children who grow up with this message carry it for life, into their relationships, their parenting, their sense of self. The right way to handle this is notice, name, and validate emotions. Teach children that feelings are not dangerous, embarrassing, or wrong. Teach them that feelings are part of being human. Because when a child learns their emotions are safe, they learn that they are safe. Chapter 3. Withholding affection. How emotional starvation shapes avoidant attachment. Children need affection the way they need food, water, and air. Love is not a luxury. It is fuel for healthy development. When parents withhold affection, whether through coldness, distance, or neglect, they starve their children emotionally. That starvation does not simply make childhood lonely. It reshapes the child's attachment style, wiring them to expect rejection, to avoid intimacy, and to mistrust love itself. What withholding affection looks like. Withholding affection is not always obvious. Some parents are openly cold. They never hug, never say "I love you," never comfort a crying child. Others are more subtle. They may show affection conditionally, only when the child performs well, behaves perfectly, or makes the parent proud. Affection becomes currency, earned, not given. There are also parents who believe affection will spoil a child. They withhold hugs to toughen their children up, believing warmth creates weakness. This old myth persists in many cultures, even though every scientific study of child development says the opposite. Affection builds resilience. Coldness builds emptiness. How the child experiences it. Children crave touch and closeness. Infants reach for their parents. Toddlers climb into laps. School-age kids look for reassurance. When those bids for affection are ignored or rejected, the child feels not only disappointment, but also deep shame. They do not think, "My parent struggles to show affection." They think, "I am not worth loving." A baby who is not soothed learns that the world is unsafe. A child who is pushed away when they try to hug learns that closeness is dangerous. A teenager who hears "stop being so needy" learns that vulnerability is shameful. The emotional starvation is not about one missed hug. It is about a pattern that teaches the child to silence their need for love. The science of attachment. John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, argued that children are biologically wired to seek closeness with caregivers. That closeness is survival. When parents respond with warmth, children develop secure attachment. They believe the world is safe, people can be trusted, and they are worthy of love. When affection is withheld, children may develop avoidant attachment. They stop reaching out because reaching out leads to rejection. They learn to self-soothe, not by calming down, but by shutting down. They build walls. They pretend they do not need closeness. Inside, the need is still there, but it is buried under fear of rejection. Mary Ainsworth's famous strange situation experiments showed this clearly. Babies with avoidant attachment would not cry when their mothers left the room, and they avoided eye contact when their mothers returned. On the surface, they looked independent, but physiological measurements told a different story. Their heart rates and stress levels spiked. They cared deeply. They were just too afraid to show it. The long-term damage children raised without affection often become adults who struggle with intimacy. They may avoid close relationships or keep partners at a distance. They may feel smothered by love because love feels unfamiliar. Or they may choose partners who are emotionally unavailable, repeating the dynamic they learned in childhood. Common patterns include fear of vulnerability. Affection feels risky, so they shut down emotionally. Difficulty expressing love. They may love deeply but cannot say the words or show the gestures. Emotional numbness. Suppressing needs for years can leave them disconnected from their own feelings. Relationship instability. Partners may complain that they are cold or distant, leading to breakups. This is not only about romance. Adults who grew up starved of affection may also struggle with friendships, parenting, and even professional relationships. They may avoid closeness, mistrust others, or feel uncomfortable with teamwork. Emotional starvation bleeds into every corner of life. Generational cycles. One of the cruelest legacies of withheld affection is how easily it becomes generational. Parents who never received warmth may not know how to give it. Hugging feels foreign. Saying "I love you" feels awkward. They may genuinely care about their children, but fail to show it, repeating the same starvation they endured. Alice Miller, in The Drama of the Gifted Child, wrote that unloved children often grow up performing for approval instead of living authentically. They parent their own children the same way, rewarding performance instead of nurturing the person. Unless the cycle is broken, emotional starvation passes from one generation to the next. Why parents withhold affection? Sometimes it is intentional. Some parents believe affection spoils children, weakens discipline, or undermines authority. They equate warmth with indulgence and coldness with strength. Other times it is unintentional. Some parents are overwhelmed, depressed, or traumatized. Their own pain makes it hard to connect. Others simply never learned affection. They grew up in homes where no one said "I love you," so they assume silence is normal. And sometimes it is conditional. Parents may shower affection when a child succeeds, but withdraw it when the child fails. This teaches that love is not unconditional but earned through performance. Children raised this way often grow into adults who hustle endlessly for approval, never feeling good enough. Everyday examples of emotional starvation. A toddler runs to hug their father, but the father stiffens and pushes them away. A child proudly shows a drawing, but the mother responds with criticism instead of praise. A teenager cries over a breakup, but the parent rolls their eyes and says, "You'll get over it." A child asks, "Do you love me?" And the parent replies, "Of course I do. You don't need to ask," but never says the words directly. Each moment reinforces the message. Closeness is not safe, love is conditional, emotions are unwelcome. Why therapy cannot fully erase it. Therapy can help adults who were starved of affection recognize what they missed and learn to ask for it. Therapists may provide corrective emotional experiences, modeling warmth and validation, but the hole remains. A child who never received unconditional love cannot go back and receive it retroactively. Many adults with avoidant attachment struggle in therapy itself. They may resist opening up, minimize their pain, or feel uncomfortable with the therapist's empathy. The very closeness that could heal them also terrifies them. This makes recovery slow and difficult. Stories that stay with us. Consider a woman who grew up in a home where no one said, "I love you." As an adult, she longs for affection but freezes when her partner tries to hold her. She feels trapped between desire and fear. Or a man raised by cold parents who only praised achievement. He becomes a workaholic, chasing success to earn love, but inside he feels hollow. His children complain that he never hugs them, and he realizes with horror that he is repeating the very cycle that broke him. These are not rare tragedies. They are everyday stories. Emotional starvation is one of the most common wounds of childhood and one of the most invisible. The right way to handle this is 1. Give affection freely. Hug your children often. Say "I love you" daily. Do not make love conditional. 2. Respond to bids for closeness. When your child reaches out, respond warmly, even if you are busy. Those moments matter. 3. Balance discipline with warmth. Setting limits does not require coldness. You can correct behavior while still showing love. 4. Model healthy affection. Let your children see you express love to your partner, friends, and family. Normalize warmth. 5. Heal your own wounds. If affection feels awkward, work on your own history. Break the cycle by learning new patterns. 6. Never weaponize affection. Do not withdraw hugs or warmth as punishment. Love should never be a bargaining chip. Closing reflection. Withholding affection does not toughen children. It starves them. Emotional starvation shapes avoidant attachment, wiring children to fear closeness and mistrust love. The scars last into adulthood, leaving people disconnected from themselves and others. The right way to handle this is give affection freely and consistently. Show your children that love is unconditional, safe, and abundant. Because children who grow up nourished by love become adults who know how to love. Chapter 4: Explosive Anger: What It Does to a Child's Nervous System. Anger itself is not the enemy. Every parent feels anger. Every child tests limits. But when anger turns explosive, when voices boom, objects are thrown, or rage takes over, the impact on a child's nervous system is profound. Explosive anger does not just scare children in the moment. It wires their brains to live in survival mode. It shapes how they respond to stress, how they see authority, and how safe they feel in their own home. What explosive anger looks like. Explosive anger can be physical, such as slamming doors, throwing objects, or hitting walls. It can be verbal, such as yelling, swearing, or screaming insults. Sometimes it is both. Parents who lose control may not even remember the details later, but children do. Children remember the sound of the slammed door, the look on the parent's face, the words that cut into them. Some parents justify it as venting. Others excuse it by saying they were stressed or provoked. But to a child, there is no justification. Explosive anger is unpredictable. Unpredictability equals danger. The child does not think, "My parent is under pressure." The child thinks, "I am not safe." How the child experiences explosive anger. Children have limited ability to regulate emotions. Their brains are still developing, especially the prefrontal cortex, which helps manage impulse control and rational thought. When a parent erupts, the child's system goes into fight, flight, or freeze. Their heart races. Their stomach clenches. Stress hormones flood their body. Even if the anger is not directed at them, children still absorb it. A parent shouting at another adult in the home can be just as frightening. The child does not separate themselves from the environment. Their nervous system reacts to the whole scene. Over time, the body adapts to expect explosions. The child may become hypervigilant, always scanning for signs of danger. They watch the parent's face, listen to the tone of voice, notice every small shift in mood. This is survival, but survival comes at a cost. The long-term damage, explosive anger, leaves scars that are not visible but are very real. 1. Chronic stress response. The body is not designed to live in constant alert mode. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline are meant for short bursts, not daily life. A child exposed to frequent explosions may have elevated stress responses even in safe environments. This affects sleep, concentration, and physical health. 2. Emotional dysregulation. Children learn how to regulate emotions by watching adults. If their main model is explosive, they may grow up unable to manage anger themselves. Some repeat the cycle, lashing out the way their parents did. Others go to the opposite extreme, bottling emotions until they burst. 3. Attachment insecurity. A home that feels unsafe erodes trust. Children may develop anxious attachment, clinging tightly to others for fear of abandonment, or avoidant attachment, keeping people at a distance to protect themselves. Both make adult relationships harder. 4. Mental health struggles. Research shows that children exposed to explosive anger are at higher risk of anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress symptoms. The body literally remembers the explosions, storing them as trauma. 5. Behavioral problems. Some children externalize their fear and anger. They fight at school, break rules, or defy authority. Others internalize it, withdrawing into silence. Either way, the root is the same. They were raised in a home where safety was unpredictable. Why parents explode? It is important to understand that most parents who explode are not evil. They are often overwhelmed, exhausted, or carrying their own unresolved trauma. A parent who was raised around anger may unconsciously repeat it. Stress from finances, work, or relationships can push parents to the edge. But while reasons may explain behavior, they do not erase the impact. Children are not resilient in the way people like to believe. They cannot shrug off repeated explosions. They absorb them. Everyday examples of explosive anger. A parent comes home tired from work and yells at the child for spilling juice. A parent loses control during homework time, shouting insults because the child struggles with math. A parent slams doors, curses, and storms out when arguments happen. A parent hurls objects at the wall during a fight. Each event may seem minor to the parent, but for the child, every episode reinforces the same lesson. Love is unstable, home is not safe, people cannot be trusted to control themselves. The Body Keeps the Score. Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score, explains how trauma imprints on the nervous system. Explosive anger in the home is exactly that kind of trauma. The body of the child reacts as if in danger, even years later. An adult who grew up with explosive parents may still flinch at raised voices, jump at slammed doors, or feel paralyzed in conflict. This is not imagination. Brain scans show differences in people raised with chronic stress. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, becomes overactive. The prefrontal cortex, which helps calm the amygdala, may be underdeveloped. The hippocampus, which regulates memory, may shrink. This is how explosive anger literally shapes the brain. Why therapy cannot fully undo it. Therapy can help adults recognize their triggers, regulate emotions, and build new coping skills. But the nervous system remembers. A child who lived with explosive anger often carries hypervigilance into adulthood. Therapy may help reduce it, but the imprint remains. This is why many adults from angry homes describe themselves as always on edge. Healing is possible, but it is lifelong work. The earlier the damage, the deeper it runs. Stories that stay with us. A boy grows up with a father who yells daily. As an adult, he avoids conflict at all costs. In relationships, he gives in too easily. Terrified of anger, he believes anger means danger, so he silences his own needs. A girl grows up with a mother who slams doors and screams. As an adult, she struggles with rage herself. Small frustrations ignite her. She hates this part of herself, but cannot escape the pattern. Another adult remembers hiding in their room whenever voices got loud. Decades later, even at work, raised voices make their heart pound. They know logically that they are not in danger, but their body reacts as if they are still that child hiding behind the door. The right way to handle this is 1. Pause before reacting. Children spill things, break things, forget chores. None of it is worth an explosion. When anger rises, step away. Breathe, walk outside, do whatever is necessary to calm down before responding. 2. Model regulation. Show children that anger can be managed. Say, I am angry right now, so I'm going to take a moment. This teaches them anger is normal, but controllable. Repair when you fail. If you explode, do not pretend it did not happen. Apologize. Say, I should not have yelled, that was wrong, I am sorry. Repair teaches children that mistakes can be acknowledged and corrected. 4. Create safe routines. Consistency reduces anxiety. When children know what to expect, they feel safer. Explosive anger thrives in chaos. Safety thrives in structure. 5. Seek help. If explosive anger is frequent, get support. Therapy, parenting classes, or stress management tools can break the cycle. Children cannot wait for you to figure it out later. They need safety now. 6. Remember what matters most. Children will not remember every detail of their childhood, but they will remember how they felt around you. Make sure they remember feeling safe. Closing reflection. Explosive anger is not a minor parenting flaw. It is a form of emotional violence that imprints on the body and brain of a child. The nervous system of a child raised in an explosive home learns to live in survival mode. That survival mode follows them into adulthood, shaping their relationships, their health, and their sense of safety. The right way to handle this is regulate yourself before you respond. Do not make your child's nervous system pay for your lack of control. Give them a home that feels safe, not one that keeps them bracing for the next explosion. Chapter 5. Never Apologizing. How Parents Teach Shame instead of repair. Children are not looking for perfect parents. They are looking for parents who are human, consistent, and willing to take responsibility when they make mistakes. Yet many parents refuse to apologize. They believe that saying sorry undermines their authority. They believe that admitting fault will make children respect them less. The truth is the opposite. Refusing to apologize does not strengthen respect. It breeds shame, confusion, and mistrust. Why parents refuse to apologize? For some parents, pride is the barrier. They were raised to see apologies as weakness. Others fear losing control. If they admit they were wrong, they worry their children will no longer listen. Some parents simply never learned how to apologize because their own parents never did. They grew up in homes where authority was unquestioned and mistakes were buried instead of acknowledged. Cultural norms play a role as well. In many families, hierarchy rules. Elders are never challenged. Children must obey. Apologies from parent to child are seen as disrespectful to tradition. But authority without humility is brittle. It cracks under the weight of resentment. How the child experiences it. When parents never apologize, children internalize a dangerous message. The powerful never admit mistakes. If a child is hurt by words or actions and the parent brushes it off, the child learns their feelings do not matter. If a child points out unfairness and the parent denies it, the child learns their perception cannot be trusted. Over time, children come to believe one of two things. Either they think, I am always wrong, even when I feel hurt, or they think, I can never trust authority because authority never owns the truth. Both outcomes damage development. A child who feels wrong all the time develops shame. They believe they are defective, and that belief follows them into adulthood. A child who cannot trust authority may grow rebellious, defiant, or cynical. They may struggle in school, work, and relationships because they never learned healthy repair. The importance of repair psychologists emphasize that all relationships involve rupture and repair. Parents will lose their temper. They will misunderstand. They will sometimes be unfair. That is not what damages children. What damages children is when the rupture is never repaired. Apologies matter because they restore connection. They teach that mistakes are part of life, but they can be acknowledged, addressed, and healed. They teach humility, empathy, and accountability. When parents refuse to apologize, they rob children of this crucial model. The long-term damage children raised by parents who never apologize often struggle with. 1. Shame. When parents never acknowledge harm, the child assumes the harm must be their fault. Shame becomes a permanent undercurrent. 2. Difficulty trusting relationships. If caregivers never admitted mistakes, the child learns that people cannot be counted on to tell the truth. This makes intimacy frightening. 3. Poor conflict resolution skills. Children who never see repair do not know how to make amends. As adults, they may stonewall in arguments, lash out defensively, or walk away instead of apologizing. 4. Perfectionism or denial. Some grow up desperate, never to make mistakes, fearing shame. Others repeat the pattern, refusing to apologize themselves because they learned that to apologize is to lose power. Fragile self-worth. Without repair, children feel unworthy of care. They learn that their pain does not deserve acknowledgement. Everyday examples of never apologizing. A parent yells in anger, then later pretends it never happened. A parent wrongly accuses a child of lying, and when proven wrong, changes the subject instead of saying sorry. A parent uses hurtful words like stupid or lazy, but never acknowledges the damage. A parent punishes unfairly, then avoids eye contact instead of apologizing. Children notice all of this. They may not say anything, but they feel the sting of injustice, and when there is no repair, the wound festers. Why therapy cannot fully fix this? Therapy can help adults recognize that their parents' refusal to apologize was not their fault. It can give them tools to repair in their own relationships. But the absence of repair in childhood leaves a scar. Many adults struggle to believe they deserve apologies at all. Others become so unfamiliar with repair that even when someone apologizes sincerely, they cannot accept it. Repair is not just a skill, it is a felt experience. Without it in childhood, the nervous system never learns to relax after rupture. The body stays tense, braced for more harm. Stories that stay with us. A woman recalls her father yelling at her for breaking a dish. Years later, she realized she had not broken it at all. He never admitted he was wrong. As an adult, she second-guesses her memory and blames herself for everything. A man remembers his mother insulting him in front of relatives. When he cried, she told him to stop being dramatic. She never apologized. As an adult, he avoids vulnerability, terrified of being humiliated again. Another adult shares that their parents never apologized for anything. When conflicts arise in their marriage, they freeze. They cannot say sorry because the word feels impossible in their mouth. They love their partner but do not know how to repair. The right way to handle this is 1. Apologize sincerely. Say, I am sorry I yelled. That was wrong. I should not have done that. Do not add excuses. Children know the difference between a real apology and a fake one. 2. Acknowledge the impact. Go beyond words. Say, I know I hurt your feelings when I said that. I can see it made you sad. This validates the child's experience. 3. Model accountability. Let your children see that adults can own mistakes. This teaches them to take responsibility in their own lives. Repair quickly. Do not wait days or weeks. Repair should happen soon after the rupture. The longer the wound sits, the deeper it becomes. 5. Break the cycle. If you were raised by parents who never apologized, practice even if it feels uncomfortable. Say the words until they feel natural. 6. Teach forgiveness through example. When you apologize, you also model how forgiveness works. Children see that love can survive mistakes. Closing reflection. Parents who never apologize may believe they are protecting authority. In reality, they are teaching shame, mistrust, and broken conflict patterns. Children raised without repair grow into adults who either drown in shame or repeat the cycle of denial. The right way to handle this is admit mistakes, repair the rupture, and model humility. Children do not need perfect parents. They need honest parents. They need parents who show that relationships can bend, break, and be repaired stronger than before. Chapter 6. Authoritarian Parenting. Obedience at the Cost of Identity. There is a difference between authority and authoritarianism. Authority guides, protects, and teaches. Authoritarianism demands obedience at any cost. It prioritizes control over connection, compliance over understanding, and power over love. Many parents believe that strictness is the path to respect, that obedience is proof of good parenting. But obedience is not the same as respect. Obedience enforced through fear strips children of their identity, stunts their emotional growth, and leaves scars that follow them into adulthood. What authoritarian parenting looks like. Authoritarian parenting is often summarized by the phrase, "because I said so." Rules are rigid, punishment is harsh, and explanations are absent. The parent does not allow negotiation or input from the child. Love feels conditional, tied to obedience and performance. Examples of authoritarian parenting include a parent who demands silence at the dinner table and punishes a child for speaking without permission. A parent who decides every aspect of a teenager's life, from clothing to friends, without listening to the teen's perspective. A parent who responds to questions with "don't talk back" rather than explanation. A parent who uses corporal punishment as the primary discipline tool, believing pain equals learning. In authoritarian homes, children quickly learn that compliance is safer than expression. Their role is not to be a unique individual, but to be a reflection of parental authority. How the child experiences it. Children raised under authoritarian parenting often feel invisible. Their voices do not matter. Their opinions are not considered. Their emotions are dismissed. A child who cries may be told to stop or be punished for disrespect. A child who expresses frustration may be accused of defiance. A teenager who challenges a rule may be labeled rebellious, even if they are raising valid concerns. The child learns that love and safety are conditional. If they obey, they are accepted. If they disobey, they are rejected or punished. This dynamic teaches them to silence themselves, to suppress their identity, and to view relationships as power struggles rather than mutual connections. The long-term damage. 1. Loss of identity. When children are never allowed to make choices, they struggle to know who they are. They become adults who look to others for direction, approval, and validation. Their sense of self is fragile because it was never nurtured. 2. Low self-esteem. Authoritarian parenting often confuses worth with obedience. Children learn that they are good only if they comply. This breeds insecurity and self-doubt. 3. Difficulty with autonomy. Children raised in authoritarian homes may either rebel dramatically once they gain freedom or remain overly dependent on others to make decisions. 4. Emotional suppression. Because emotions are often punished or dismissed, children learn to hide them. As adults, they may struggle with intimacy, vulnerability, and emotional expression. 5. Fear-based relationships. When love is tied to fear, children may unconsciously seek similar dynamics in adulthood. They may choose partners who are controlling or environments that mirror the authoritarian dynamic. 6. Mental health risks. Research consistently shows that authoritarian parenting is linked to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and aggression in children. The very style meant to control behavior often produces instability instead. The psychology of authoritarian parenting. Diana Baumrind, a developmental psychologist, identified 3 main parenting styles in the 1960s: permissive, authoritative, and authoritarian. Later, uninvolved parenting was added as a 4th. Of these, authoritarian parenting is marked by high control and low warmth. Children in these households may be disciplined and obedient, but they lack the security and confidence that comes from warm, responsive parenting. Authoritative parenting, by contrast, balances control with warmth. Authoritative parents set boundaries, but they explain, guide, and nurture. Children raised with authoritative parenting tend to have the best outcomes: high self-esteem, better academic performance, and healthier relationships. The key difference is not the rules themselves, but the way they are enforced. Authoritarian parents demand blind obedience. Authoritative parents encourage understanding. Everyday scenarios in authoritarian homes. Homework. A child struggles with math. An authoritarian parent says, "Stop complaining and finish it now, or you'll be punished." An authoritative parent says, "I see you're frustrated. Let's figure out where you're stuck." Curfew. A teenager asks to stay out later. An authoritarian parent says, "No, and don't question me." An authoritative parent explains, "I worry about your safety if you're out past midnight. Let's compromise." Emotions. A child cries after being bullied. An authoritarian parent says, "Don't be weak. Stand up for yourself or stop whining." An authoritative parent says, "That must have hurt. Let's talk about what we can do next time." These differences shape not just the child's behavior in the moment, but their entire approach to relationships and self-expression. The cultural context. Authoritarian parenting is sometimes defended as cultural tradition. In certain cultures, strict obedience is seen as respect for elders. Children are expected to comply without question. While cultural values deserve respect, it is important to separate cultural pride from harmful practices. Respect can be taught without fear. Discipline can exist without humiliation. Studies across cultures show the same pattern. Authoritarian parenting may produce short-term obedience, but long-term, it undermines emotional health and independence. Children need both structure and love to thrive. The silent message. The silent message of authoritarian parenting is simple. Who you are does not matter. Only your obedience matters. That message kills individuality. It leaves children disconnected from their authentic selves. Many adults who grew up under authoritarian parents describe feeling like robots or actors. They learned to play roles to avoid punishment, but deep down, they never learned who they really are. This loss of identity is one of the most devastating legacies of authoritarian parenting. Stories that stay with us. A woman recalls that her father controlled every detail of her life. She was not allowed to choose her own clothes, friends, or hobbies. As an adult, she feels lost when asked what she likes or wants. She has spent years in therapy trying to discover her identity. A man remembers that his mother punished him for questioning rules. As an adult, he struggles at work. He either resents authority figures or submits completely, unable to find a healthy balance. Another adult shares that in their home, love was tied to obedience. They grew up excelling in school to please their parents, but as an adult, they suffer from severe anxiety. They fear making mistakes because mistakes always led to rejection. Why therapy cannot always undo the damage. Therapy can help adults raised in authoritarian homes reconnect with their identity. It can teach them to set boundaries, to express emotions, to value their own voice. But the damage runs deep. When a child is trained to believe that their worth is tied to obedience, that belief becomes embedded in the nervous system. It shapes attachment, self-esteem, and worldview. Therapists often describe working with clients who say, "I don't know what I want. I only know what others expect of me." That is the voice of authoritarian parenting, echoing years later. The right way to handle this is 1. Set boundaries with explanation. Rules are necessary, but children deserve to understand why they exist. Explanation builds trust and teaches reasoning. 2. Encourage expression. Allow children to voice opinions and feelings. Listening does not undermine authority, it builds respect. 3. Model mutual respect. Discipline does not require humiliation. Treat children with the same respect you expect from them. 4. Balance firmness with warmth. Say no when needed, but say it with empathy. Children thrive on both limits and love. 5. Apologize when wrong. Authority is strengthened, not weakened by humility. Admitting mistakes shows children that respect flows both ways. 6. Nurture individuality. Encourage children to explore interests, make choices, and develop their own identity. Obedience should never replace authenticity. Closing reflection. Authoritarian parenting may produce obedient children, but obedience purchased with fear comes at a devastating cost. It silences individuality, breeds shame, and creates adults who either rebel without direction or submit without identity. True respect is not forced, it is earned through love, consistency, and humility. The right way to handle this is guide without crushing, discipline without humiliating, and parent with both authority and warmth. Because children are not meant to be soldiers in a family army. They are meant to be humans, learning how to carry both responsibility and selfhood into the world. Chapter 7. Inconsistent Rules, the Anxiety of Never Knowing What to Expect. Children crave structure. Predictability helps them feel safe. When rules change constantly, when consequences depend on the parent's mood rather than the behavior, the child's world becomes chaotic. Inconsistent rules create confusion, mistrust, and anxiety. Instead of learning accountability, children learn fear. Instead of building confidence, they build hypervigilance. What inconsistent rules look like. Inconsistency shows up in many ways. One day a parent yells about shoes left by the door, the next day they ignore it completely. A teenager gets grounded for missing curfew one week, but the following week, the same mistake results in nothing. Parents argue about rules in front of the child. One says yes, the other says no, leaving the child caught in the middle. Discipline shifts depending on who is in charge at the moment. Grandma lets things slide. Dad punishes harshly. Mom waffles between both extremes. Children quickly notice these patterns. They learn that the rules are not about the behavior, but about the adult's mood. This unpredictability destabilizes them. How the child experiences it. Imagine being a child who never knows what to expect. Sometimes you are punished, sometimes you are ignored, sometimes you are praised for the exact same behavior. Life feels like walking on shifting ground. Children in inconsistent environments often develop anxiety. They scan for clues to predict how the parent will react. They read facial expressions, tones of voice, and body language. They try to control the uncontrollable. This is exhausting. Instead of focusing on learning or exploring, the child's energy goes into survival. How will they react today? Am I in trouble or not? What version of my parent will I get? The long-term damage. 1. Hypervigilance. Children raised with inconsistent rules often become hyper-aware of their environment. They are constantly scanning for danger or cues. This can persist into adulthood, making it difficult to relax even in safe situations. 2. Poor emotional regulation. Inconsistent responses from parents make it difficult for children to learn how to regulate themselves. They never know whether emotions will be accepted or punished. 3. Trust issues. When rules change, promises break, and discipline depends on mood, children lose trust in authority. This mistrust can spill into adult relationships, work environments, and even self-trust. 4. Anxiety and depression. Living in unpredictability creates chronic stress. Stress hormones flood the body, keeping the child in survival mode. Over time, this increases the risk of anxiety and depression. 5. Confusion about boundaries. Inconsistent rules blur the line between right and wrong. Children may grow up without a clear sense of boundaries, making them more vulnerable to toxic relationships. The connection to attachment. Attachment theory emphasizes consistency as a cornerstone of secure attachment. Children who can predict how their caregivers will respond develop trust. When caregivers respond inconsistently, attachment becomes insecure. Anxious attachment often forms when a child sometimes receives love and sometimes rejection. The child clings, desperate for approval, but never feels secure. Avoidant attachment can form when inconsistency teaches the child that closeness is unreliable. They stop seeking comfort to avoid disappointment. Both patterns leave scars that make adult relationships difficult. Everyday scenarios. A parent laughs when a toddler uses a curse word one day, then punishes them for it the next. The child has no idea which reaction is coming. A teenager negotiates with one parent who agrees, only to be punished later when the other parent finds out. The child learns that honesty is dangerous. Siblings receive different consequences for the same action. One gets grounded, the other gets a warning. This breeds resentment and confusion. The silent message. The silent message of inconsistent rules is this: you cannot rely on me. Your world is unstable. This message leaves children anxious and insecure. They do not develop a strong sense of self because their environment constantly shifts under their feet. Why parents fall into inconsistency. Many parents do not intend to be inconsistent. Stress, fatigue, and lack of communication between caregivers create mixed signals. Some parents are permissive until they reach their breaking point, then swing into harsh punishment. Others are distracted and inconsistent because of their own mental health struggles. Divorced or separated parents may also create inconsistency when they enforce different rules in different homes. While some variation is natural, extreme differences can destabilize children. The science of predictability. Research shows that consistency is crucial for brain development. The nervous system thrives on predictability. Predictable routines reduce stress and increase resilience. Inconsistent environments, on the other hand, keep the stress response activated. Neuroscience confirms that children need consistent cues to learn cause and effect. If the same behavior leads to different outcomes, the brain cannot form reliable connections. This undermines both discipline and emotional regulation. Stories that stay with us. A man recalls that his parents alternated between ignoring him and punishing him for the same behavior. As an adult, he struggles with authority at work. He never knows whether he will be rewarded or criticized, so he lives in constant anxiety. A woman remembers that her mother's rules changed daily depending on mood. She grew up walking on eggshells. As an adult, she finds herself in relationships with unpredictable partners because unpredictability feels normal. Another adult shares that they were never sure whether honesty would lead to punishment or acceptance. As an adult, they lie easily to avoid conflict, even when honesty would have been safe. Why therapy cannot fully fix it. Therapy can help. Adults recognize patterns of inconsistency and build new structures in their lives. But the nervous system remembers the unpredictability. Many adults raised in inconsistent homes describe feeling on edge all the time, even when nothing is wrong. Their body learned to expect instability. Therapy can ease the impact, but it cannot erase the imprint completely. The right way to handle this is 1. Communicate with consistency. If more than one caregiver is involved, agree on rules and consequences together. Present a united front. 2. Be predictable with discipline. The same behavior should lead to the same consequence. This builds trust. Explain rules clearly. Children need to understand not only the rule, but the reason behind it. Clarity reduces anxiety. 4. Stay regulated. Do not let your mood dictate consequences. Discipline should come from principles, not emotions. 5. Repair when inconsistency happens. If you handle something differently than usual, explain why. Say, I know yesterday I reacted differently. I was wrong. This is what the rule is. 6. Prioritize routines. Bedtimes, mealtimes, and daily rhythms create stability. Even small routines provide a sense of safety. Closing reflection. Inconsistent rules may seem harmless compared to outright abuse, but unpredictability is a form of chaos that children carry in their bodies. It teaches them that the world cannot be trusted, that authority is unstable, and that safety is never guaranteed. This anxiety follows them into adulthood, shaping relationships, work, and mental health. The right way to handle this is create consistency, explain clearly, and repair when you fail. Children do not need perfection, but they do need predictability. Predictability is what allows them to grow into confident adults who trust themselves and others. Chapter 8. Overprotection and helicoptering. Creating helpless adults. Every parent wants to keep their child safe. Protecting our children is one of the deepest instincts we have. But when protection turns into overprotection, when watching turns into hovering, we rob children of the chance to grow. Helicopter parenting, constantly monitoring, directing, and managing every detail of a child's life, may look like love. In reality, it creates helpless adults who struggle with independence, confidence, and resilience. What overprotection looks like. Overprotection is not always obvious. It does not always mean extreme sheltering or forbidding every risk. Sometimes it looks like constant checking, rescuing too quickly, or doing for the child what they could do for themselves. A parent who ties their 10-year-old's shoes because it is faster, even though the child is capable. A parent who constantly texts their teenager during the school day to make sure they are okay. A parent who calls the teacher every time their child gets a grade below an A. A parent who never allows sleepovers, bike rides, or even short trips to the store alone because of fear. A parent who intervenes in every sibling argument instead of letting children work it out. The pattern is clear. The parent steps in to prevent discomfort, difficulty, or risk. The child never learns to handle those experiences on their own. How the child experiences it. At first, many children like being overprotected. It feels like care. It feels like love. But over time, they begin to feel smothered. They internalize two painful messages. 1, the world is too dangerous for me to handle. 2, I am too weak to handle the world. When a child is never given responsibility, they assume they cannot be trusted. When a child is never allowed to take risks, they assume the world cannot be trusted. This double bind creates anxiety, dependency, and self-doubt. A teenager who is shielded from every struggle may freeze when faced with college independence. A young adult whose parents solved every problem may collapse under workplace stress. The child who was never allowed to fail becomes the adult who fears failure so much that they avoid growth altogether. The long-term damage. 1, lack of resilience. Children need to practice facing failure, conflict, and disappointment in order to grow strong. Overprotected children often crumble under stress because they were never allowed to practice coping. 2, low self-confidence. When parents constantly step in, children doubt their own abilities. They internalize the idea that they cannot succeed without someone else's help. 3, anxiety. Overprotection often comes with parental fear. Children absorb that fear. They grow up believing danger is everywhere, even when it is not. 4, poor problem-solving skills. Children who never have to solve their own problems enter adulthood unprepared. They may avoid challenges or expect others to solve things for them. 5, strained adult relationships. Overprotected children may either remain overly dependent on their parents or seek controlling partners. Some even resent their parents for holding them back, leading to estrangement. 6, difficulty with independence. College, jobs, and relationships require autonomy. Children who were always managed may feel overwhelmed, helpless, or paralyzed when they finally have to stand alone. The psychology of helicopter parenting research confirms what common sense suggests. Over-involvement undermines competence. A study from the Journal of Child and Family Studies found that college students with helicopter parents reported higher levels of anxiety and depression. Another study from the Journal of Child Development found that over-controlled children had lower emotional regulation and poorer social skills. Psychologists describe autonomy as a basic psychological need. Just as children need love and safety, they need freedom to explore and make choices. When autonomy is denied, development stalls. Everyday scenarios. A child forgets their homework. The parent rushes to school to deliver it, rescuing them from the natural consequence. A teenager faces conflict with a friend. The parent calls the other parent to intervene, robbing the teen of the chance to navigate conflict. A college student emails a professor. The parent follows up with their own email, undermining the student's independence. A child signs up for sports. The parent micromanages practice, drills, and performance, turning play into pressure. Each time, the parent's goal is protection, but the effect is disempowerment. Why parents hover? Most helicopter parents are motivated by love. They do not want their children to suffer. They want to smooth the path. Others are motivated by fear, bombarded with media about danger and convinced the world is more dangerous than it is. Some parents hover because of their own anxiety, using control over the child as a way to manage their fears. There is also social pressure. Competitive parenting culture pushes parents to micromanage academics, sports, and extracurriculars. Parents fear that if they do not hover, their child will fall behind. But in trying to give their children every advantage, helicopter parents may be handing them a disadvantage that is far harder to undo. The silent message. The silent message of overprotection is, you cannot handle life on your own. This belief becomes self-fulfilling. Children who are not given opportunities to handle challenges do not build the skills they need. They grow up unprepared, insecure, and dependent. Stories that stay with us. A young man recalls that his parents solved every problem for him. They wrote his college applications, called his professors, and even managed his first job interviews. When he finally had to handle responsibilities on his own, he collapsed with anxiety. He felt like an imposter in adulthood. A woman remembers her mother forbidding sleepovers, parties, or independent travel. As an adult, she struggles with fear of the unknown. She avoids risk even when opportunity knocks, because she never learned to trust herself. Another adult describes being constantly monitored. Their parents tracked their phone, checked their grades daily, and managed every detail. Today, they have little contact with their parents. They love them, but they resent the lack of freedom. They needed space to grow and never got it. Why therapy cannot fully fix it? Therapy can help adults raised by helicopter parents build skills, set boundaries, and gain confidence. But the delayed development is hard to make up. Adults who are overprotected often feel years behind their peers in independence. They may struggle to make decisions, manage finances, or cope with setbacks. While therapy can accelerate growth, the lost years cannot be reclaimed. The transition to adulthood, which should have been gradual, becomes abrupt and overwhelming. The right way to handle this is 1. Encourage risk within reason. Allow your child to try new things, even if they might fail. Scraped knees and small mistakes are how resilience is built. 2. Let natural consequences happen. Do not rush to rescue. If a child forgets homework, let them face the consequence. Learning responsibility matters more than avoiding discomfort. 3. Step back gradually. Give age-appropriate independence. Let young children choose clothes. Let teenagers manage their schedules. Increase freedom as competence grows. 4. Model confidence, not fear. Children take cues from parents. Show them the world is challenging but manageable. Avoid passing down your anxiety. 5. Support without smothering. Be present and available, but do not interfere with every detail. Offer guidance when asked, not control at every step. 6. Remember the goal. Parenting is about preparing children for adulthood. Protecting them from every challenge does not prepare them, it handicaps them. Closing reflection. Overprotection is not love in its truest form. It is fear disguised as care. Helicopter parenting may prevent small pains in the short term, but it creates larger struggles in the long term. Children who are not given space to fall and get up never learn to stand on their own. The right way to handle this is give children freedom to explore, fail, and grow. Step back enough for them to build confidence, but stay close enough to support when needed. The balance is not easy, but it is essential, because children who are trusted to face life become adults who can actually live it. Chapter 9. Favoritism and comparison, sibling wounds that never close. Parents often say they love their children equally. Many even believe they treat their children the same. But siblings almost always know the truth. Subtle differences in attention, tone, praise, and discipline are felt deeply. Favoritism and comparison are among the most damaging patterns in family life. They plant seeds of resentment between siblings, fracture self-worth, and create wounds that often last a lifetime. What favoritism looks like. Favoritism can be blatant or quiet, but children notice both. A parent consistently praises one child's achievements while overlooking the efforts of the others. A parent takes one child's side in conflicts almost every time. A parent spends more time and energy on one child, leaving siblings feeling invisible. A parent excuses one child's mistakes, but punishes another for the same behavior. Sometimes favoritism is based on birth order, gender, personality, or similarity to the parent. Sometimes it is tied to achievement. The star athlete or top student becomes the favorite by default. Even when unspoken, favoritism is felt. Children have radar for fairness. They notice who gets praised, who gets defended, and who gets brushed aside. What comparison looks like. Comparison often travels with favoritism. Why can't you be more like your brother? Your sister never gave me this much trouble. He is the smart one, you are the social one. She is the responsible one, you are the difficult one. Parents may think they are motivating by comparison. In reality, they are carving identities into stone. One child is forever the good one. Another is the problem. One is the talented one. Another is the disappointment. Children absorb these labels. They shape how siblings see each other and how each child sees themselves, how the child experiences it. Being the unfavored child is crushing. Every act of favoritism reinforces the message. You are less loved, you are less worthy. The child may respond by withdrawing, rebelling, or endlessly chasing approval that never comes. Even being the favored child is not without damage. Favored children often feel pressure to perform, guilt toward siblings, or fear of losing their status. They may become perfectionists, desperate to hold on to love that feels conditional. Comparison cuts both ways. The child who is compared negatively feels defective. The child who is compared positively feels burdened. In either case, identity is shaped by someone else's shadow. The long-term damage. 1. Damaged sibling relationships. Favoritism pits siblings against each other. Resentment replaces closeness. Many adults remain estranged from siblings because childhood comparisons poisoned the bond. 2. Low self-esteem. Unfavored children internalize rejection. They believe they are less worthy, less capable, less lovable. Favored children may appear confident but carry fragile self-worth tied to performance. 3. Chronic anxiety. When love feels conditional, children live in fear of losing it. This fear creates anxious attachment in adult relationships. 4. Perfectionism and burnout. Favored children may overwork themselves, terrified of falling from grace. Unfavored children may overcompensate, striving endlessly for acknowledgement. 5. Persistent shame. Comparison tells children that who they are is not enough. Shame lingers, shaping adult choices and relationships. Everyday scenarios. A father spends hours coaching his son's sports team but never shows up for his daughter's performances. She learns that her interests matter less. A mother constantly points out that one child is neat while the other is messy. The messy one grows up believing they are inherently flawed. A parent praises one child's report card but ignores the other child's effort, teaching that only certain types of success count. The silent message. The silent message of favoritism is, love can be ranked. The silent message of comparison is, who you are is not enough. Both create wounds that last far beyond childhood. Stories that stay with us. A woman recalls her parents always praising her brother as the smart one. She became the funny one to survive, but inside she believed she was dumb. Decades later, she still second-guesses her intelligence. A man remembers his sister being the golden child. She could do no wrong, while he was always punished. They are now adults who barely speak. The resentment never faded. Another adult shares that she was the favorite. Her parents leaned on her as the responsible one. She excelled in school and career, but she feels crushing guilt toward her siblings, who resent her to this day. She never felt free to fail. Why parents do it? Favoritism is often unconscious. Parents may identify with one child more because of shared personality. They may invest more in the child who brings them pride through achievement. Stress, marital conflict, or personal trauma can also skew attention toward or away from certain children. Comparison often arises from parental fear. Parents think comparisons will push children to improve, but the opposite happens. Comparison discourages growth by replacing curiosity with shame. Why therapy cannot fully fix it. Therapy can help adults recognize favoritism and comparison for what they were, reflections of the parent, not the child's worth. It can help repair sibling relationships or heal self-esteem, but the scars are real. Adults may continue to struggle with feelings of inadequacy or estrangement from siblings. Even favored children often feel hollow because their worth was never unconditional. Research on favoritism studies confirm that parental favoritism is linked to poorer mental health, higher sibling conflict, and weaker parent-child bonds. Research in the Journal of Marriage and Family found that perceived favoritism predicted depression in adult children, regardless of whether they were the favored or unfavored sibling. Another study showed that sibling bonds remained strained into midlife when favoritism had been present in childhood. The research is clear. Favoritism and comparison leave lifelong marks. The right way to handle this is 1. Be mindful of fairness. No parent is perfectly equal, but awareness matters. Ask yourself if you are giving one child more attention, praise, or grace than another. 2. Celebrate individuality. Each child is unique. Celebrate their differences without ranking them. Say, you are creative, or you are thoughtful, instead of, you are smarter than your brother. 3. Avoid comparisons. Do not pit children against each other. Replace, why can't you be more like your sister, with, I know you can do better. Let's talk about how. 4. Spend one-on-one time. Each child deserves moments where they feel seen. Even short, intentional time with each child reduces feelings of favoritism. 5. Acknowledge mistakes. If your children point out favoritism, listen. Repair matters. Saying, "You're right, I gave more attention there. I will do better," goes a long way. 6. Encourage sibling connection. Model respect and encourage siblings to support each other. Do not triangulate by always taking one side. Closing reflection. Favoritism and comparison may seem small in the moment, but they cut deep. They tell children that love is conditional and identity is ranked. They turn siblings into rivals and leave adults carrying shame, resentment, or fragile self-worth. The right way to handle this is love each child for who they are, not in relation to their siblings. Stop ranking, stop comparing, and start celebrating individuality. Because sibling wounds created in childhood rarely close on their own. Parents have the power to prevent them in the first place. Chapter 10. Parentification. When kids are forced to be the adults, childhood is meant to be a time of growth, play, and learning. But for some children, childhood ends too soon. Parentification happens when the roles are reversed and children are forced to act as adults. Instead of being cared for, they become the caretakers. Instead of being shielded, they shoulder responsibilities beyond their years. Parentification robs children of their innocence and leaves behind wounds that are often invisible but profoundly deep. What parentification looks like. Parentification comes in two main forms. 1. Instrumental parentification. The child takes on practical roles such as cooking, cleaning, managing finances, or caring for siblings because the parent will not or cannot. 2. Emotional parentification. The child provides emotional support for the parent, becoming the confidant, counselor, or even surrogate partner. Common examples include a 10-year-old cooking dinner every night because the parent is absent or incapable, a teenager paying bills or translating documents for parents who cannot, a child listening to their parents' relationship problems or mental health struggles, an older sibling raising younger siblings while the parent works multiple jobs, struggles with addiction, or simply abdicates responsibility. Not all responsibilities are harmful. Helping with chores or occasionally caring for siblings can build maturity. The problem is when the responsibilities are chronic, heavy, and developmentally inappropriate. How the child experiences it. At first, some children feel proud of their role. Adults may even praise them for being mature for their age. But beneath the pride is exhaustion and confusion. The child learns that their needs come second, or not at all. Children who are parentified often carry these silent beliefs. My value comes from taking care of others. My needs do not matter. Love means sacrifice. I must earn worth through service. These beliefs shape identity. The child grows up unsure how to relax, play, or depend on anyone else. They may struggle to ask for help, fearing rejection or shame. The long-term damage. 1. Loss of childhood. Parentified children skip developmental stages. They never get the carefree exploration that builds creativity and resilience. This loss cannot be recovered. 2. Codependency. Parentified children often become adults who overfunction in relationships. They give too much, tolerate too much, and neglect themselves. 3. Burnout and exhaustion. Carrying adult responsibilities as a child sets the stage for chronic stress and eventual burnout. Many adult children of parentification describe always feeling tired, even when they rest. 4. Anxiety and depression. Parentified children live with pressure, guilt, and fear of failure. These emotions often grow into clinical anxiety or depression in adulthood. 5. Difficulty with boundaries. Children who are expected to meet adult needs often struggle to set boundaries later. They say yes when they should say no, and they feel guilty for prioritizing themselves. 6. Strained sibling relationships. When one child is forced into the parental role, sibling bonds can become complicated. Younger siblings may resent the bossy older one, not realizing the role was forced. Older siblings may resent the burden placed on them. Everyday scenarios. A child calls into work to explain why their parent will not be coming in. A teenager consoles their mother after arguments with her boyfriend. An older sibling bathes, feeds, and helps with homework for younger siblings daily. A child hides their own struggles because they know their parent is already overwhelmed. Each scenario erodes childhood. The silent message. The silent message of parentification is, your needs do not matter. You exist to meet the needs of others. Children raised with this message grow into adults who either repeat the cycle or collapse under its weight. Stories that stay with us. A woman remembers putting her younger siblings to bed while her parents partied. She was only 8. As an adult, she feels guilty leaving work on time, convinced she is responsible for everyone else. A man recalls being his mother's therapist. She cried on his shoulder about financial problems and relationship struggles. He was 12. Today, he avoids intimacy because he equates closeness with burden. Another adult shares that they raised their siblings while their single father worked 2 jobs. They love their siblings deeply, but they feel robbed of their own childhood. They never went to parties, never joined activities, never just played. Why parents do it? Parentification is not always malicious. Some parents are overwhelmed by poverty, illness, or trauma. They lean on their children because they see no other choice. Others are selfish, prioritizing their own needs and leaving children to pick up the pieces. Sometimes parentification happens in families with addiction, mental illness, or divorce. The child becomes the stabilizer in a home that feels unstable. They become the little adult, not because they want to, but because survival requires it. Why therapy cannot fully fix it? Therapy helps adults recognize that their childhood burdens were unfair. It can teach boundaries, self-care, and healthier patterns. But therapy cannot give back the childhood that was lost. The hole remains. Many adult children of parentification grieve for the childhood they never had. The nervous system also carries the weight. A child who lived in constant responsibility grows into an adult whose body does not know how to relax. Even in safe environments, they feel pressure to perform, care, and manage. Research on parentification studies have linked parentification with higher risks of depression, anxiety, and difficulty with intimacy in adulthood. Research published in Journal of Child and Family Studies notes that while mild responsibility can build resilience, chronic parentification undermines development. The burden of adult roles is too heavy for a child's mind and body. Parentification is sometimes called an invisible trauma because it is not always obvious to outsiders. The child may appear capable, responsible, even exemplary. Teachers may praise them, relatives may admire them, but beneath the surface, they are carrying a crushing weight. The right way to handle this is 1. Let children be children. Chores and small responsibilities are healthy, but do not shift adult roles onto them. Children should not manage finances, care for siblings daily, or act as your therapist. 2. Protect their time. Prioritize play, rest, and exploration. Childhood is not a training ground for adulthood. It is a stage of life that matters on its own. 3. Seek adult support. If you need emotional or financial help, turn to other adults, not your children. Friends, family, therapists, and community resources exist for this purpose. 4. Listen when children express overwhelm. If a child says they feel tired or burdened, take it seriously. Do not dismiss it. 5. Repair if you have crossed the line. It is never too late to acknowledge mistakes. Telling your grown child, "I asked too much of you and I am sorry," can help them heal. 6. Break the cycle. If you were a parentified child yourself, resist the urge to repeat the pattern. Give your children the freedom you were denied. Closing reflection. Parentification steals childhood. It forces children into roles they are not meant to carry, teaching them that their worth lies in sacrifice and responsibility rather than simply being themselves. The wounds of parentification last, shaping identity, relationships, and health. The right way to handle this is let children be children. Give them the freedom to grow, play, and depend on adults for care. Protect them from adult burdens, even when life is hard. Because a child who carries too much too soon becomes an adult who never learns how to put the weight down. Chapter 11. Fighting in front of kids. Teaching that love equals chaos. Conflict is a part of every relationship. Disagreements between adults are inevitable, but when fights explode in front of children, the home becomes unsafe. Children are not bystanders to conflict. They are participants, even when silent. They absorb the tension, the anger, and the fear. They learn lessons about love and relationships that stay with them forever. What fighting in front of kids looks like. Fighting does not only mean screaming matches. It includes harsh arguments in the kitchen where children can hear every word, silent treatment that fills the home with tension, Parents insulting or belittling each other in front of their children. Physical fights, slamming doors, breaking objects. Emotional withdrawal, where children watch one parent collapse in tears while the other storms out. Even minor conflicts leave marks. A raised voice, a slammed door, or cold silence can unsettle a child's nervous system. How the child experiences it. Children depend on their caregivers for safety. When caregivers fight, the child's world feels unstable. A parent's face twisted in anger or voice raised in rage signals danger to a child's developing brain. Their nervous system reacts with fight, flight, or freeze. Some children cry or cling, desperate to restore harmony. Some hide in their rooms trying to disappear. Some act out, believing bad behavior will distract the parents from fighting. Some freeze, paralyzed with fear. The message they internalize is devastating. Love equals chaos. Relationships mean danger. Intimacy means pain. The long-term damage. 1. Anxiety and hypervigilance. Children in high-conflict homes stay on edge. They scan for signs of fights, reading facial expressions and tones of voice. This constant vigilance follows them into adulthood. 2. Trouble with emotional regulation. Watching parents explode or withdraw teaches children that emotions are dangerous or uncontrollable. As adults, they may repeat those extremes, either lashing out or shutting down. 3. Insecure attachment. Conflict undermines the child's trust in their caregivers. Attachment becomes anxious or avoidant. As adults, these children may fear abandonment or avoid closeness altogether. 4. Relationship struggles. Children model relationships on what they saw. If love was paired with chaos, they may tolerate toxic dynamics as adults. They may believe that fighting is proof of passion or that abuse is normal. 5. Depression and hopelessness. Children who grow up surrounded by conflict often feel powerless. They carry guilt, believing the fights are their fault. This weight can turn into depression in adolescence and adulthood. Everyday scenarios. A child overhears parents arguing late into the night. They lie awake, heart-pounding, fearing divorce. A teenager watches one parent insult the other. They feel trapped, forced to take sides. A child cries during a fight and is told, "Go to your room, this is not about you." But to the child, it always feels about them. Siblings huddle together during shouting matches, comforting each other because no one else will. The silent message. The silent message of fighting in front of kids is, love equals instability. Relationships are unsafe. This message burrows into the child's understanding of intimacy. They may grow up associating closeness with chaos. Stories that stay with us. A woman recalls her parents fighting constantly. As an adult, she avoids relationships altogether. Love feels dangerous. A man remembers being forced to mediate between his arguing parents. Today, he feels responsible for keeping peace in every relationship, even at the cost of his own needs. Another adult shares that their parents never divorced but fought every week. They grew up believing constant conflict was normal. They married someone who yells and insults them because it feels like home. Why parents fight in front of kids? Parents often underestimate how much children hear and see. They assume children are asleep or distracted. They minimize the damage by saying, "Kids are resilient." In truth, children are not resilient to chronic conflict. They absorb it. Stress, financial struggles, addiction, or unresolved trauma often fuel fights. But reasons do not erase impact. Even normal marital tension, when constant and hostile, harms children. Why therapy cannot fully fix it. Therapy helps adults raise the link between childhood conflict and adult struggles. It teaches communication, boundaries, and emotional regulation. But therapy cannot erase the memories of slammed doors, harsh words, or cold silences. The body remembers. The nervous system still reacts to conflict decades later. Research on conflict in family studies show that children exposed to high-conflict homes are more likely to develop anxiety, depression, and poor relationship outcomes. Research published in the Journal of Family Psychology found that exposure to chronic conflict predicted lower emotional security and higher risk of behavioral issues. Importantly, research also shows that conflict itself is not always harmful. What matters is how conflict is handled. Constructive conflict, calm discussions, listening, apologizing, can actually teach children valuable lessons. It is destructive conflict, hostile and unresolved, that leaves scars. The right way to handle this is 1. Keep destructive fights away from children. If conflict escalates, remove it from children's view and earshot. Protect their sense of safety. 2. Resolve disagreements calmly. Model healthy conflict resolution. Show children that differences can be discussed without cruelty. 3. Apologize openly. If children witness a fight, let them also witness repair. Say, "We argued, but we worked it out. We are okay." This restores security. 4. Never use children as mediators. Do not drag children into adult conflicts. They are not referees, therapists, or allies. They need to feel safe with both parents. 5. Mind, tone, and body language. Even without yelling, tension is felt. Speak respectfully, even in disagreement. 6. Teach repair and forgiveness. Conflict is inevitable. What matters most is repair. Let children see that love can survive conflict when handled with respect. Closing reflection. Fighting in front of kids teaches them that love equals chaos. It wires their nervous systems to expect instability. It turns childhood homes into battlegrounds and adulthood relationships into cycles of fear. Parents may think children are too young to understand, but children always understand enough to feel unsafe. The right way to handle this is protect children from destructive conflict, model healthy resolution, and teach repair. Love does not have to equal chaos. It can equal safety, respect, and calm, even in disagreement. Chapter 12. Tolerating abuse or staying too long. What children learn about relationships. Every child watches their parents' relationship. They notice who speaks, who stays quiet, who controls, who gives in, and who gets hurt. When abuse is present, even if the parent believes they are shielding the child, the truth leaks through. Children sense tension. They hear the silence after shouting. They see the bruises, the tears, the emotional collapse. And when a parent stays in abuse, or even in a deeply unhealthy relationship for too long, the child learns lessons about love that cut deep. They learn that love means pain, relationships mean suffering, and leaving is not an option. What abuse in the home looks like. Abuse takes many forms. Physical violence is the most obvious, but it is far from the only one. Verbal abuse such as insults, humiliation, name-calling, and constant criticism. Emotional abuse such as gaslighting, manipulation, isolation, or withholding affection. Financial abuse, where one partner controls all resources, denying the other independence. Physical abuse, including hitting, shoving, or threatening with violence. Sexual abuse within relationships through coercion or lack of consent. Even when abuse is not visible, children feel it. They may not know the words, but they know something is wrong. How the child experiences it. Children in abusive homes live with constant tension. They never know when the next outburst will happen. Their bodies stay on high alert. They may feel shame, fear, and helplessness. When a parent stays in abuse, the child internalizes several damaging beliefs. 1. Love means suffering. 2. Being strong means staying, no matter the cost. 3. Leaving is not an option. 4. Abuse is normal. The child may even blame themselves. If they wonder if they are the reason for the fights, or if they could somehow fix it. This guilt adds another layer of pain. The long-term damage. 1. Distorted view of love. Children who grow up in abusive homes may confuse intensity with intimacy. They may seek out partners who replicate the same patterns. 2. Fear of abandonment. If a parent tolerates abuse for the children often grow up terrified of abandonment, believing survival requires clinging to broken relationships. 3. Anxiety and hypervigilance. Living in chaos wires the nervous system for constant alertness. Adults raised in abuse often feel unsafe, even in calm environments. 4. Low self-worth. Children internalize the message that their parent, and by extension, they themselves, did not deserve better. 5. Repeating the cycle. Many children either become abusers themselves or end up in abusive relationships. Without intervention, the cycle continues. 6. Difficulty trusting healthy relationships. When stability feels unfamiliar, calm can feel boring or unsafe. Many adults from abusive homes sabotage healthy love because chaos is what they know. Everyday scenarios. A child overhears screaming matches at night and goes to school the next day pretending nothing happened. A teenager watches one parent control all the money, knowing the other has no freedom to leave. A child notices a parent's bruises and is told to mind your business or I just fell. An adult child looks back and remembers years of tension, silence, and fear, realizing only later how abnormal it was. The silent message. The silent message of tolerating abuse is that this is what love looks like. The silent message of staying too long is that you are not allowed to walk away, no matter how bad it gets. Both messages warp the child's ability to build healthy relationships later in life. Stories that stay with us. A woman recalls her mother telling her, "I stayed for you kids." Instead of gratitude, she felt guilt. She wished her mother had left to show her that safety was possible. A man remembers his father belittling his mother daily. She never left. As an adult, he dated women who criticized him constantly. It felt familiar. Another adult shares that their parent finally left after decades of abuse. The child, now grown, still wonders why it took so long. They carry anger for the years of fear they endured unnecessarily. Why parents stay? Parents stay in abusive relationships for many reasons. Fear of financial instability, fear of retaliation, shame, cultural pressure, or hope that the abuser will change. Some stay out of love, believing the relationship can be saved. Many stay for the children, thinking stability, even abusive stability, is better than separation. But children do not benefit from watching abuse. Staying for the kids often does more harm than leaving ever could. Children need safety more than they need a household that looks intact from the outside. Why therapy cannot fully fix it. Therapy helps survivors of abusive homes recognize patterns, rebuild self-worth, and learn healthier dynamics. But therapy cannot erase the years of fear, tension, and distorted lessons about love. Many adults carry scars into every relationship, even with the best therapy. The nervous system remembers. Raised voices, slammed doors, even sharp tones can trigger panic in adults who grew up in abuse. Their bodies react as if they are still children in danger. Research on exposure to abuse. Research shows that children exposed to domestic violence are at higher risk for anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress, and difficulties with relationships. Studies also confirm that witnessing abuse is as harmful as experiencing it directly. According to the American Psychological Association, children who grow up in violent homes are more likely to experience emotional and behavioral problems, and many go on to replicate the patterns in their own families. The right way to handle this is 1. Prioritize safety. If abuse is present, the priority is not preserving the relationship but protecting the child. Leaving may be hard, but staying teaches the wrong lesson. 2. Seek support. Abuse isolates, but help exists. Hotlines, shelters, counseling, and legal resources are critical. Children benefit most when parents reach for help. 3. Model self-respect. Show children that safety and dignity matter. Leaving abuse models strength, not weakness. 4. Acknowledge what happened. Children need honesty. Saying, "What you saw was not okay," helps them make sense of their experience. Silence breeds confusion and shame. 5. Teach healthy love. Demonstrate relationships built on respect, calm, and kindness. Children learn as much from what they see as what they are told. 6. Repair where possible. If you stayed too long, acknowledge it. Tell your children, "I should have left earlier, but I am here now." Repair helps healing. Closing reflection. Children learn about love by watching their parents. When abuse is tolerated or relationships drag on long past their breaking point, the lesson is that suffering is part of love. These lessons stick, shaping adult choices and perpetuating cycles of pain. The right way to handle this is protect children by refusing to normalize abuse. Show them that love is safety, respect, and kindness. Show them that leaving is possible, that dignity matters more than appearances. Because what children learn from watching relationships will follow them into every relationship they ever have. Chapter 13, Substance Abuse in the Home. Growing up in constant unpredictability. When substance abuse enters a home, stability leaves. A parent who drinks too much, abuses drugs, or cycles in and out of sobriety creates an environment that is unpredictable, frightening, and unsafe. Children in these homes learn that love and chaos can come in the same package. They never know which version of their parent they will get, and that unpredictability shapes their nervous systems, their identities, and their relationships for life. What substance abuse in the home looks like. Substance abuse does not look the same in every family. It may be the parent who drinks until they pass out on the couch every night. It may be the mother who disappears for days on a binge. It may be the father who gets high before work, trying to hide it but failing. It can also look deceptively normal. A parent may function well enough to hold down a job and appear responsible to the outside world. But at home, moods swing wildly, promises are broken, and children are left holding the burden of unpredictability. Common experiences for children in homes with substance abuse include hearing promises that are never kept, watching parents shift from affectionate to enraged within minutes, covering up embarrassing situations to protect the family's image, missing meals, school, or activities because a parent was incapacitated, being forced into caretaking roles such as helping siblings or even managing the intoxicated parent. How the child experiences it. Children are deeply sensitive to patterns. In healthy homes, they can predict that parents will feed them, comfort them, and protect them. In homes with substance abuse, the pattern is broken. Safety becomes conditional. A child might wake up one morning to a cheerful, loving parent who makes pancakes and jokes. That same evening, the parent might be drunk, yelling, or passed out. The child learns that affection is unstable, that the ground can shift without warning. This unpredictability wires the child's nervous system for survival mode. They learn to scan for danger, watching the parent's body language and tone of voice for early signs of intoxication. They become hypervigilant, carrying a constant, heavy anxiety. The long-term damage. 1. Hypervigilance and anxiety. Children raised in unpredictable homes often stay on edge. Even as adults, they expect instability. They may have panic attacks or struggle to relax in safe environments. 2. Trust issues. Broken promises become a pattern. Adults who grew up in substance-abusing homes often struggle to trust anyone, even people who are reliable. 3. Attachment wounds. Love tied to chaos creates insecure attachment. Some adults cling desperately to partners, terrified of abandonment. Others avoid closeness altogether, equating intimacy with pain. 4. Risk of substance abuse. Research shows that children of substance-abusing parents are at higher risk of abusing substances themselves. Some repeat the cycle because it feels familiar. 5. Caretaking and codependency. Many children in these homes become parentified, stepping into adult roles. As adults, they may continue to overfunction in relationships, taking care of others while neglecting themselves. 6. Shame and secrecy. Children often hide what happens at home, afraid of judgment or intervention. This secrecy becomes ingrained, making it hard to ask for help later in life. Everyday scenarios. A child waits for a parent to pick them up from school, but is forgotten because the parent is intoxicated. A teenager hears their parent say, "I'll quit drinking tomorrow," but watches them drink again that night. A child covers their siblings' ears during a drunken argument, trying to protect them. A young adult remembers never bringing friends home out of shame. The silent message. The silent message of substance abuse in the home is you cannot rely on love. Love is unpredictable. This message warps the child's understanding of relationships and safety. Stories that stay with us. A woman remembers her father drinking every night. Sometimes he was funny and warm. Other nights he was angry and cruel. She never knew which version she would get. As an adult, she struggles with anxiety and distrust. A man recalls being the oldest sibling in a home with an addicted mother. He raised his younger brothers, cooked meals, and got them to school. Today, he still feels guilty resting, as if he must always be taking care of someone. Another adult shares that their parent was a functioning alcoholic. From the outside, the family looked fine, but inside the home was chaos, instability, and shame. They now struggle with intimacy because safety feels foreign. Why parents abuse substances. Substance abuse is often tied to unresolved trauma, stress, or mental health issues. Some parents self-medicate to cope with pain. Others slip into addiction slowly, believing they are still in control. Many minimize the impact on their children, telling themselves they don't notice, or it's not that bad. But children always notice. Why therapy cannot fully fix it. Therapy helps adults from these homes make sense of what happened. It can reduce shame, build healthier coping mechanisms, and break the cycle of substance abuse. But therapy cannot erase the unpredictability of childhood. The nervous system remembers the nights of fear, the broken promises, the silence of shame. Research on substance abuse and family studies consistently show that children in substance-abusing homes are more likely to develop anxiety, depression, and behavioral problems. They are also more likely to experience academic struggles and social difficulties. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, children of addicted parents are 4 times more likely to develop substance use disorders themselves. The Adult Children of Alcoholics movement describes common traits of these adults: difficulty trusting, fear of abandonment, over-responsibility, and struggles with intimacy. These are not random. They are the legacy of growing up in unpredictability. The right way to handle this is 1. Seek treatment. Parents struggling with addiction must seek help. Children cannot wait for someday. Recovery benefits the whole family. 2. Acknowledge the impact. Pretending children do not notice is denial. Speak honestly. I know my drinking hurt you. I am working to change. 3. Create stability. Children need predictable routines. Meals, bedtimes, and consistent caregiving restore a sense of safety. 4. Protect children from chaos. Do not drag children into fights or caretaking roles. Shield them as much as possible while seeking help. 5. Model recovery. Show children that change is possible. Going to therapy, attending meetings, and committing to sobriety teaches resilience. 6. Break the cycle. Children of addicted parents often repeat the pattern. Parents who get sober and repair teach their children that cycles can be broken. Closing reflection. Substance abuse in the home turns love into a gamble. Children grow up never knowing what to expect, carrying the weight of unpredictability into every part of adulthood. They may repeat the cycle, avoid relationships, or live in constant fear. The right way to handle this is seek help, create stability, and repair openly. Children deserve homes where safety is predictable, love is reliable, and tomorrow does not depend on whether a parent drinks or uses. Because unpredictability may feel like survival, but it is not love. Chapter 14. Toxic Stepparents and Stepfamilies. Stepfamilies are not new. They have been part of human life for centuries, created by remarriage, divorce, and sometimes survival in the face of early death. But the modern stepfamily looks different. In the United States, nearly 1 in 3 children will live with a stepparent before the age of 18. Some estimates suggest that by 2040, a quarter of all kids will be raised in stepfamilies. That is a staggering number, and it means that the influence of stepparents cannot be brushed aside. A good stepparent can become a stabilizing, loving figure in a child's life, but a toxic stepparent can create wounds that last a lifetime. In fact, the statistics on stepchildren tell a sobering story. Children in stepfamilies face higher rates of abuse, neglect, and emotional harm compared to those living with both biological parents. And this is not just about physical safety. It is also about belonging, identity, and attachment. Children are wired to seek stability and consistent care. When a stepparent comes into the picture and brings toxicity, the results can ripple through every part of a child's development. The Cinderella effect. Researchers call it the Cinderella effect. Evolutionary psychology studies, most famously those by Martin Daly and Margot Wilson, found that stepchildren are at far higher risk of abuse than biological children. In fact, young children living with a stepparent are about 7 times more likely to be victims of confirmed abuse compared to children living with both biological parents. In cases of fatal abuse, the numbers are even worse. Stepfathers were found to kill stepchildren at rates 10 times higher than biological fathers. These numbers are not meant to suggest that every stepparent is abusive. Far from it. Many stepmothers and stepfathers devote themselves wholeheartedly to children they did not biologically create, and those kids thrive. But the statistics are too strong to ignore. They tell us that children in stepfamilies are vulnerable, and when toxicity is present, the damage is magnified. What toxic stepparenting looks like. Toxic stepparents come in many forms. Some are openly hostile, making it clear they never wanted children, and resenting their spouse's kids for simply existing. Others are more subtle, competing with the children for attention, undermining the biological parent, or using passive-aggressive tactics that leave the child feeling unwanted. The overly harsh stepparent. The stepmother who disciplines more than she nurtures, insisting on respect, while offering little warmth. The rival stepparent, the stepfather who treats the child as competition for the mother's affection, criticizing or belittling the child to elevate himself. The disengaged stepparent, the adult who pretends the child is invisible, never investing emotionally, never building a bond, leaving the child feeling like a permanent outsider in their own home. Children are incredibly perceptive. They pick up on tone, body language, and subtle signals. When a step-parent does not want them, they know it. And the message is devastating. You do not belong. You are not worth loving. You are in the way. The child's perspective. Imagine being 9 years old and your mom remarries. A new man moves into the house. Overnight, the entire dynamic shifts. The rules are different, the energy in the home changes, and suddenly the space that was once safe feels unpredictable. Maybe the new stepfather enforces stricter rules, or maybe he just looks at you with quiet disapproval. You feel judged. You feel like you are trespassing in your own kitchen. Now imagine you are a teenager. Your dad has a new wife who insists you call her mom, though you already have a mother. She criticizes your clothes, your friends, even your body. Your father defends her, saying, "She just wants the best for you." But to you, it feels like betrayal. You are silenced in your own family. Children in step families often report feeling like second-class citizens in their homes. They notice when their half-siblings are treated better. They notice when money is spent differently. They notice when the biological parent sides with the new partner instead of them. Each one of these moments chips away at trust and attachment. The long-term damage children raised with toxic step-parents often carry scars that last into adulthood. The effects can include attachment disorders, difficulty trusting partners, clinging too tightly, or pushing intimacy away. Identity confusion, struggling to feel they belong anywhere, always feeling other. Self-esteem issues, internalizing rejection, believing they are unworthy of love. Resentment and estrangement, cutting ties with the parent who allowed the toxicity. And here is the hard truth. Even years of therapy cannot always erase these wounds. Therapy can help people understand what happened to them, cope with it, and build healthier relationships. But the deep sense of rejection that comes from living with a toxic step-parent leaves an imprint. The child grows into an adult who learned far too early that love can be conditional and belonging can be revoked. Statistics beyond abuse. Beyond the chilling abuse numbers, research shows that stepchildren face greater risks across multiple areas of life. Higher rates of behavioral problems and delinquency compared to peers in intact biological families. Lower academic performance and engagement. Increased rates of depression and anxiety. Higher likelihood of leaving home earlier. One study reviewing dozens of step-family outcomes found that the quality of the step-parent-child relationship is the single strongest predictor of child well-being. In other words, a warm, supportive step-parent can buffer the risks, but a toxic one magnifies them. Famous voices on step-family struggles. Psychologist Patricia Papernow, author of Surviving and Thriving in Step-Family Relationships, writes, "Children in step-families are navigating complex loyalty binds. They are often pulled between parents and step-parents, expected to form attachments on demand while coping with losses they never chose. When step-parents fail to approach this with sensitivity, the child pays the price." Bessel van der Kolk, in The Body Keeps the Score, emphasizes how childhood environments that feel unsafe can leave trauma lodged in the nervous system. A toxic step-parent creates exactly that kind of environment. The child's body never relaxes, always scanning for cues of rejection or hostility. Why children blame themselves? Children rarely think, "My step-parent is toxic." Instead, they internalize the rejection. They believe, "If only I were better, quieter, smarter, more lovable, maybe they would accept me." This is where the deepest damage occurs. Because once a child blames themselves for being unloved, they carry that story into adulthood. They may end up in toxic romantic relationships, repeating the same dynamic. They may struggle to parent their own children, always doubting if they are worthy of love. The parent's responsibility. The biological parent holds the key here. Too often, a parent excuses the behavior of a new spouse, ignoring the child's discomfort in order to preserve the marriage. But here's the brutal reality. Choosing a toxic partner over your child is one of the deepest betrayals. Children do not forget it. They may forgive later in life, but they rarely forget. Many adults estranged from their parents trace the break back to a step-family dynamic where they were unprotected. The right way to handle this is 1. Prioritize the child's safety and belonging. No relationship is worth sacrificing your child's mental health. If your new partner is hostile, dismissive, or abusive toward your child, that is not something to minimize. 2. Move slowly. Do not rush children into calling a step-parent mom or dad. Let the bond develop naturally. Forcing it only creates resentment. 3. Maintain loyalty to your child. Your partner may be your spouse, but your child did not choose this situation. Children need reassurance that they are not being replaced. 4. Set clear roles. Discipline should primarily come from the biological parent, especially in the early years of blending a family. The step-parent should focus on building trust first. 5. Encourage respect, not forced love. Children do not have to love their step-parent, but they should treat them respectfully. Likewise, step-parents must treat the child with respect, regardless of whether a deep bond forms. 6. Seek family therapy. Blending families is hard. Professional support can help everyone find their roles without putting the child in the crossfire. 7. Remember what lasts. Spouses can come and go. Your child is forever. Choose in a way that your child will remember as protective, not abandoning. Closing reflections. Toxic step-parents are not just difficult personalities. They are forces that can shape a child's attachment style, sense of belonging, and self-worth for life. The statistics are clear. Stepchildren are at higher risk of harm, but the responsibility lies with the adults. Parents must recognize the vulnerability of children in step-families and act to protect them. A healthy step-parent relationship can be a gift. A toxic one can be a curse that echoes across generations. The choice is in the hands of the parent. The right way to handle this is protect your child first, always. Build slowly. Prioritize safety and belonging, because no partner is worth sacrificing your child's well-being. Chapter 15. Living through your kids, robbing them of their own life. Children are not extensions of their parents. They are not trophies, second chances, or vessels to carry out unfulfilled dreams. But many parents treat them that way. Instead of seeing their children as separate people, they see them as opportunities to redo their own lives, to achieve what they could not, to shine where they once failed. This is living through your kids, and it robs them of their own life. What living through your kids looks like. Living through your children is not always obvious. Sometimes it looks like enthusiasm or encouragement. But underneath, the drive is about the parent's needs, not the child's. A parent who pushes a child into sports because they wanted to be an athlete. A parent who demands perfect grades because they never achieved them. A parent who insists on a particular career path, regardless of the child's interests. A parent who enters their child into beauty pageants or talent shows to fulfill their own hunger for recognition. A parent who pressures a child socially, choosing their friends, activities, and even their style of dress to maintain an image. The child is not allowed to explore their authentic self. They are molded to reflect the parent's image. How the child experiences it. At first, children often comply. They want to please their parents. They crave approval. But over time, they begin to feel trapped. Their own desires are pushed aside. Their voice is drowned out. The child may internalize beliefs like, "My worth comes from making my parent proud. I cannot disappoint them, or I will lose their love. What I want does not matter." This creates a painful split. Outwardly, the child may appear successful or talented. Inwardly, they feel disconnected, hollow, or resentful. The long-term damage. 1. Loss of identity. When a child's life is shaped around a parent's dreams, they struggle to discover their own. As adults, they may not know who they are or what they want. 2. Conditional self-worth. Children learn that love and approval come only when they perform. They equate worth with achievement. 3. Burnout. Pushed into activities that do not align with their interests, children burn out physically and emotionally. 4. Anxiety and depression. The pressure to live up to parental expectations creates chronic stress, which often evolves into mental health struggles. 5. Fragile relationships. Children raised as extensions of their parents often struggle in adult relationships. They may continue to people-please, sacrifice their own needs, or resent anyone who tries to control them. 6. Estrangement. Many adults eventually pull away from parents who controlled their childhood. Estrangement often stems from years of feeling unseen. Everyday scenarios. A child dreams of being an artist, but is pushed relentlessly into law or medicine because it is respectable. A teenager enjoys sports casually, but is forced into daily training and competition to chase their parents' dreams of scholarships. A child who struggles academically is constantly compared to siblings or pushed into tutoring until they collapse under stress. A parent insists their child attend the same college or join the same fraternity or sorority they once did, regardless of fit. The silent message. The silent message of living through your kids is, your life is not your own. You exist to fulfill my dreams. This strips children of autonomy, individuality, and self-respect. Stories that stay with us. A woman recalls being forced into piano lessons and competitions for over a decade. She practiced for hours every day, winning awards, but she hated it. As an adult, she has never touched a piano again. Music feels like a prison, not a joy. A man remembers being pushed into football to fulfill his father's lost dream of being a star athlete. He suffered multiple injuries and quit in college. Now he feels lost, unsure what he truly enjoys. Another adult shares that their mother wanted them to be a doctor. They followed the path, got the degree, and now feel trapped in a career they never chose. Their resentment toward their mother runs deep. Why parents do it? Parents often live through their children unconsciously. They see their child's success as validation of their own worth. They want to relive youth, fix regrets, or achieve vicariously. Sometimes it is about pride and status. Parents push children into achievements to show off to relatives or neighbors. Other times, it is about fear. Parents believe that unless their child follows a certain path, they will fail in life. But underneath, it is about control. The parent sees the child as an extension of themselves, not a separate human being. Why therapy cannot fully fix it. Therapy helps adults raised this way reclaim their identity. It teaches them to separate their own desires from their parents' expectations. But the lost years cannot be restored. Many adults grieve the childhoods they never got to live. The nervous system also carries the imprint of pressure. Even when free, many adults still hear the parents' voice in their heads, criticizing, pushing, demanding. Breaking free takes time, courage, and often distance. Research on parental pressure studies have shown that excessive parental pressure correlates with anxiety, depression, and lower self-esteem. According to research published in the Journal of Child and Family Studies, children who feel pressured to achieve for their parents are more likely to experience burnout and less likely to pursue their authentic interests. Parental pressure may increase short-term achievement, but it undermines long-term well-being. Success without self-identity is hollow. The right way to handle this is 1. Support, don't control. Encourage children to explore interests, but let them choose what they want to pursue. 2. Value effort, not outcome. Celebrate the process, not just the achievements. Say, I'm proud of how hard you worked, instead of only praising results. 3. Separate your dreams from theirs. Be honest about your own regrets or wishes, but do not put them on your child's shoulders. 4. Encourage autonomy. Allow children to make choices about hobbies, friendships, and career paths. Guide, but do not dictate. 5. Check your motives. Ask yourself, am I supporting my child, or am I trying to relive my life through them? 6. Repair when needed. If you realize you pressured your child too much, admit it. Tell them, I pushed too hard and I am sorry. Your life is your own. Closing reflection. Living through your kids may look like love, but it is theft. It steals their autonomy, their voice, and their chance to discover who they really are. It leaves adults disconnected from themselves, unsure of what they want, carrying the weight of someone else's dreams. The right way to handle this is love children for who they are, not for who you want them to be. Guide them, support them, and protect them, but let them live their own life. Because children are not here to fix our regrets or fulfill our dreams. They are here to live their own. Chapter 16, Overvaluing Achievement, How Perfectionism Becomes a Prison. Every parent wants their child to succeed. It feels good to see children bring home good grades, win trophies, or shine in front of others. Pride is natural, but when achievement becomes the measure of a child's worth, when love is tied to performance, the home turns into a pressure cooker. The child learns that failure equals rejection and that perfection is the only safe way to live. This creates a prison that many never escape. What overvaluing achievement looks like. Overvaluing achievement is not always about screaming at kids to get straight A's. Sometimes it looks like subtle but relentless focus on performance. A child brings home all A's and one B. The parent focuses only on the B. A teenager wins second place in a competition and is met with "why not first?" A parent brags about accomplishments but never praises effort, kindness, or creativity. A child is loaded with advanced classes, tutoring, and activities, not because they enjoy them, but because they will look good on college applications. Conversations revolve around grades, scholarships, and careers, while feelings and relationships barely come up. The underlying message is clear. Achievement equals love. How the child experiences it. Children need unconditional acceptance. When love is tied to performance, they internalize harmful beliefs. I am valuable only when I succeed. I cannot fail without losing love. My real self is not enough. At first, many children rise to the pressure. They work hard, stay up late, practice relentlessly, and polish their image. Outwardly, they look like model students or star athletes. Inwardly, they are terrified. Terrified of falling short, terrified of disappointing parents, terrified of what will happen if they are anything less than perfect. The long-term damage. 1. Perfectionism. Perfectionism feels like discipline, but it is rooted in fear. Children learn to equate mistakes with disaster. As adults, perfectionists often struggle to complete projects, procrastinate out of fear, or burn out trying to meet impossible standards. 2. Fragile self-worth. When identity is tied to performance, self-worth collapses with every failure. Adults raised this way often feel worthless when they fall short, even in small ways. 3. Anxiety and depression. The constant pressure creates chronic stress. Studies link overvaluing achievement with higher rates of anxiety, depression, and even suicidal thoughts in teens. 4. Difficulty with relationships. Children raised to perform may carry that same expectation into relationships, either by demanding perfection from others or by hiding flaws out of fear of rejection. 5. Loss of authenticity. Children who live for performance often lose touch with what they truly enjoy. They pursue what looks good, not what feels right. As adults, they struggle to know who they really are. Everyday scenarios. A teenager is grounded for getting a B instead of an A, even though they worked hard. A child wants to quit a sport they do not enjoy, but is forced to continue because the parent wants the scholarship. A high schooler cries after losing a competition, not because they care about the loss, but because they fear their parents' disappointment. A young adult chooses a career they hate because it matches parental expectations. The silent message. The silent message of overvaluing achievement is, you are loved only for what you do, not for who you are. This message turns success into a cage, stories that stay with us. A woman recalls her parents celebrating her only when she won. Every other time, they were cold. As an adult, she fears failure so much that she avoids risks, even ones that might bring joy. A man remembers being pushed into medical school. He hated it, but finished to make his parents proud. Today he is successful but miserable, trapped in a career that feels like someone else's dream. Another adult shares that she was the perfect child, excelling at everything. She is now in therapy for panic attacks, realizing she was never taught that being imperfect was safe. Why parents do it. Many parents overvalue achievement because of fear. They believe success is the only way to ensure security. Others do it out of pride, tying their own worth to their child's accomplishments. Some relive their own lost dreams through their children, pushing them to achieve what they never could. Parents often justify it as preparing children for the real world. They say, "Life is competitive. I am just making sure my child wins." But children are not built for endless pressure. They need balance. They need love that is not conditional. Why therapy cannot fully fix it. Therapy helps adults unlearn perfectionism. It teaches them to value themselves beyond achievements. But the fear of failure is often hardwired. Adults raised in achievement-obsessed homes describe feeling panic when they rest or pursue hobbies without measurable success. The nervous system remembers the pressure. Research on achievement pressure studies confirm the harm. Research published in the Journal of Youth and Adolescence shows that children who perceive high parental pressure are at increased risk of depression and anxiety. The American Psychological Association has reported that perfectionism among young people has risen sharply over recent decades, tied closely to parental expectations and cultural obsession with success. Achievement itself is not harmful. It is the overvaluing of it, the tying of love and worth to performance, that turns achievement into a prison. The right way to handle this is 1. Value the whole child. Celebrate not just grades or trophies, but kindness, curiosity, resilience, and joy. 2. Praise effort, not outcome. Say, I am proud of how hard you worked, rather than only focusing on results. 3. Encourage exploration. Let children try activities for fun, not just for achievement. Give them permission to quit if it is not right for them. 4. Model balance. Show that rest, play, and imperfection are part of a full life. Do not glorify burnout. 5. Talk openly about failure. Normalize mistakes. Teach that failure is part of growth, not a reason for shame. 6. Examine your motives. Ask yourself, am I pushing for their dreams or mine? Am I supporting them or trying to protect my own ego? 7. Repair when you overpressure. If you realize you pushed too hard, admit it. Say, I care about you more than your achievements. I am sorry if I made you feel otherwise. Closing reflection. Overvaluing achievement may produce impressive resumes, but it leaves fragile hearts. It teaches children that perfection is the only safe way to exist, that love is conditional, and that their identity is tied to performance. This is not preparation for adulthood. It is imprisonment. The right way to handle this is love your children for who they are, not for what they accomplish. Teach them to value effort, growth, and authenticity. Show them that life is about more than success, because success without selfhood is empty. Chapter 17, Dismissing Neurodiversity and Mental Health. The Silent Destruction of Self-Esteem. Children are not born broken. They are born different. Some develop along typical paths, others along paths that are less understood. Some children have autism, ADHD, dyslexia, or sensory processing differences. Others struggle with depression, anxiety, or mood disorders, even at very young ages. All of these children need the same thing: to be seen, to be accepted, and to be supported. Yet too often parents dismiss neurodiversity and mental health struggles. They label their children lazy, dramatic, or attention-seeking. They deny diagnoses, refuse treatment, and silence conversations about struggle. This dismissal is not neutral. It destroys self-esteem and leaves children believing they are defective. What dismissal looks like. Dismissal can take many forms, from subtle minimization to outright denial. A child with ADHD is called lazy because they forget homework. A teenager with depression is told to snap out of it. An autistic child who flaps their hands is shamed for being weird. A child with anxiety is accused of making excuses to avoid responsibility. A teenager who asks for therapy is told they are just seeking attention. Parents may not even realize how cruel these messages sound. Sometimes dismissal is coded in the language of toughness. You just need to work harder. Stop making excuses. If I survived my childhood, you will too. Other times it is rooted in denial. There is nothing wrong with you. You are just being dramatic. How the child experiences it. Children believe what their parents say. When a parent tells them their struggles are not real, the child does not stop struggling. They stop trusting themselves. They learn that their inner experience is wrong, shameful, or invalid. The child may internalize painful beliefs, such as, I am defective. My feelings are not real. I cannot trust my own mind. Love only exists when I hide who I am. This is how self-esteem is silently destroyed. The child grows up doubting their perceptions, second-guessing their needs, and believing that their existence is a burden. The long-term damage. 1. Chronic shame. Dismissal teaches children to view themselves as failures. They carry shame into adulthood, believing they are not worthy of love or belonging. 2. Internalized ableism. Children learn to hate their differences. Adults raised this way often apologize for their needs, downplay their struggles, or try to mask symptoms to appear normal. 3. Fear of vulnerability. If a child learns that opening up results in dismissal, they stop reaching out. As adults, they hide struggles, refuse help, and suffer in silence. 4. Mental health deterioration. Unacknowledged conditions worsen. Anxiety grows, depression deepens. Untreated ADHD leads to academic and career struggles. Masked autism leads to burnout. 5. Insecure attachment. Dismissal breaks trust. Children no longer see parents as safe places. This insecure attachment carries into adult relationships, where they expect rejection when they show vulnerability. 6. Suicidality. Studies show that children whose mental health is dismissed or stigmatized are at higher risk of suicidal thoughts and behaviors. When life feels unbearable and parents deny it, hopelessness grows. Everyday scenarios. A child has panic attacks before school. Their parent says, "Stop faking. Everyone has to go to school." A teenager cannot focus on homework. Their parent insists, "You are just lazy." A child cries about feeling different. Their parent tells them, "You are fine. Stop looking for problems." A young adult asks for medication. Their parent lectures them about weakness instead of helping. Each moment reinforces the same message. Your needs do not matter, your feelings are invalid, and your struggles are your fault. The silent message. The silent message of dismissal is, "You cannot be yourself here." This message cuts deeper than almost any other. It tells children that the core of who they are is unacceptable. Stories that stay with us. A woman remembers begging her parents to take her anxiety seriously. She could not sleep, eat, or concentrate. They told her she was dramatic. As an adult, she avoids sharing her feelings with anyone. She assumes people will roll their eyes. A man recalls being punished for not sitting still in school. His parents told him he just needed discipline. He was diagnosed with ADHD at age 30. He describes losing decades of self-esteem because he believed he was simply stupid and lazy. Another adult shares that they were autistic, but never diagnosed as a child. Their parents constantly scolded them for being weird. They learned to mask, to pretend to be normal. Today they are burned out, exhausted from decades of hiding. Why parents dismiss? Parents dismiss neurodiversity and mental health for many reasons. Some are cultural. In certain communities, mental illness is seen as weakness or shameful. Admitting it feels like failure. Others are personal. Parents may fear judgment or denial. "Not my child. There is no way this could happen in our family." Sometimes it is about control. If a parent admits a child has special needs, they must change how they parent. That requires humility and effort. Dismissal is easier, and sometimes it is about fear. Parents who struggled themselves may deny their child's needs because acknowledging them would stir up their own unhealed pain. The role of schools and systems dismissal is not only a parental issue. Schools often dismiss children's needs as well. Teachers may label children lazy or disruptive instead of recognizing ADHD. Counselors may minimize depression as normal teenage angst. Medical systems may delay diagnoses because of biases, especially against girls and children of color. When parents side with dismissive systems instead of advocating for their children, the harm multiplies. The child feels completely unseen. Why therapy cannot fully fix it? Therapy can help adults reclaim their self-worth. It can teach them to honor their needs, advocate for accommodations, and heal from shame. But therapy cannot undo the years of dismissal. The nervous system remembers being ignored, silenced, or invalidated. Adults may still hesitate to ask for help, even when they know better. The habit of hiding runs deep. Research on dismissal and mental health research consistently shows that parental validation is protective. Children who feel understood have better mental health outcomes, even when facing challenges. Conversely, children whose needs are dismissed show higher rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide attempts. Studies on neurodiversity reveal that acceptance improves outcomes. Autistic children who feel accepted are less likely to experience burnout. Children with ADHD who are supported instead of shamed are more likely to succeed academically and emotionally. Dismissal is not neutral. It is destructive. Everyday consequences in adulthood. Adults who grew up dismissed often overwork themselves to prove they are not lazy. They avoid relationships or hide struggles out of fear of being seen as dramatic. They self-medicate with substances because they were never allowed proper treatment. They become parents themselves and struggle to validate their own children because no one modeled it for them. The generational cycle. Dismissal breeds silence across generations. Parents who were dismissed often dismiss their own children, repeating the cycle. Breaking this pattern requires courage. It requires parents to admit their children's experiences are real, even if they never received that validation themselves. The right way to handle this is 1. Listen without judgment. When a child says they are struggling, believe them. Do not minimize, do not dismiss, do not argue. 2. Seek evaluation and support. If a child shows signs of neurodiversity or mental health challenges, seek professional guidance. Early support makes a difference. 3. Celebrate difference. Frame neurodiversity as part of human variation. Say, you think differently, and that is valuable. 4. Normalize mental health care. Model openness. Show that therapy, medication, or accommodations are normal tools, not signs of weakness. 5. Separate behavior from identity. Discipline should address actions, not shame the child's core. You forgot your homework is different from you are lazy. 6. Repair if you dismissed in the past. If you denied your child's struggles, admit it. Say, I should have listened. I am sorry. I am listening now. Repair matters. 7. Advocate, do not excuse. Support children in school and community settings. Fight for accommodations, but also teach resilience. Closing reflection. Dismissing neurodiversity and mental health does not make struggles go away. It buries them under shame. It leaves children doubting their minds, distrusting their feelings, and believing they are defective. This is how self-esteem is silently destroyed. The right way to handle this is listen, validate, and support. Show children that their minds and differences are not shameful. Teach them that love does not require perfection, that help is not weakness, and that being different does not mean being broken. Because children who are accepted as they are grow into adults who finally believe they are enough. Chapter 18. Not seeing who your child really is. Crushing individuality and spirit. Every child comes into the world with their own spark. Some are loud, some are quiet, some are dreamers, some are planners. Some move fast, some move slow. Each has their own way of thinking, their own temperament, and their own budding identity. A parent's job is not to create a copy of themselves, but to nurture the person already there. When parents refuse to see their children as individuals, when they impose their own expectations so heavily that the child's uniqueness gets ignored, individuality and spirit are crushed. The result is not a strong, obedient adult, but a broken one who doubts their own worth. What it looks like when parents do not see their children. Not seeing a child for who they really are can be blatant or subtle. A boy who loves art is pushed relentlessly into sports because that is what boys do. A girl who is analytical and curious is told her role is to be sweet, quiet, and accommodating. A child who is naturally shy is constantly shamed with, "Why can't you be more outgoing like your cousin?" A teenager who questions religion or politics is silenced instead of encouraged to think critically. A child who shows neurodiverse traits is pressured to act normal instead of supported in their differences. Parents may not realize they are crushing individuality. They think they are guiding. They think they are preparing their child for the world. In reality, they are telling their child that who they are is not enough. How the child experiences it. Children are deeply sensitive to approval and rejection. They crave being known and accepted. When their true selves are ignored, they experience painful dissonance. The child learns, I must hide who I am. My interests and desires do not matter. Love is conditional on being who they want me to be. Who I really am is wrong. This is not just sad, it is soul-crushing. Identity formation is one of the most important developmental tasks of childhood and adolescence. If a parent blocks or distorts that process, the child may reach adulthood without a clear sense of self. The long-term damage. 1. Loss of authenticity. Children raised to hide their individuality often grow up disconnected from themselves. They may not know what they like, what they want, or who they really are. 2. Low self-esteem. When identity is dismissed, self-worth collapses. The adult feels inadequate even when they achieve success. 3. People-pleasing. Children who learn to bury themselves to please parents often continue the pattern in adulthood. They sacrifice their own needs to make others happy. 4. Rebellion without direction. Some children fight back, but without a secure sense of self, rebellion becomes chaotic rather than authentic. 5. Depression and anxiety. The constant suppression of individuality creates chronic stress and despair. Adults raised this way often struggle with mental health. 6. Difficulty with intimacy. Authenticity is the foundation of real intimacy. Adults who were never allowed to be themselves may find it impossible to let partners or friends see the real them. Everyday scenarios. A child who loves books is constantly pushed to be more athletic, leading them to feel ashamed of what they love. A teenager who wants to pursue theater is forced into business classes because the parent wants a practical career. A child who has a strong will is punished for talking back instead of being guided to use that assertiveness in healthy ways. A teenager with a unique fashion sense is mocked by their parents for looking ridiculous. The silent message. The silent message of ignoring individuality is, you are not allowed to exist as yourself. Few wounds cut deeper than that. Stories that stay with us. A woman remembers being told all her life that she was too loud, too opinionated, too much. She grew into an adult who apologizes constantly, shrinking herself to fit others' expectations. A man recalls being forced into engineering even though he loved literature. He has a stable job but feels hollow, as though he missed his true calling. Another adult shares that they were never allowed to dress how they wanted. Their parents controlled their appearance to maintain family image. Today, they still feel shame when expressing their style. Why parents do it? Parents may not mean harm. Sometimes they project their own dreams, hoping their children will accomplish what they could not. Sometimes they fear judgment from others, using their child's behavior or achievements to protect family reputation. Other times, it is about control, believing that children must conform to the parent's worldview. Fear is often at the root. Parents fear that individuality will make their child vulnerable, weird, or unsuccessful. Instead of embracing uniqueness, they try to mold their child into a safer, more socially acceptable version. The role of culture. In many cultures, individuality is undervalued. Conformity, obedience, and family reputation are prioritized. Children are taught that duty to family outweighs self-expression. While cultural traditions matter, crushing individuality is never healthy. Every culture can honor family values while still allowing children to explore their identity. Why therapy cannot fully fix it. Therapy helps adults reclaim their lost identities. It provides tools to ask, what do I like? What do I want? Who am I really? But the years of suppression leave scars. Adults often feel guilt when pursuing their own desires, as if authenticity is betrayal. The nervous system remembers the fear of rejection. Research on identity and mental health psychologists note that identity formation is crucial during adolescence. Erik Erikson described the task of adolescence as resolving the crisis of identity versus role confusion. When parents dismiss individuality, they push children toward role confusion. Research shows that strong identity development predicts better mental health and stronger adult relationships. Suppressed identity predicts depression, anxiety, and poor life satisfaction. Everyday consequences in adulthood. Adults who were never seen as children often struggle to make decisions, fearing judgment. They may jump from career to career, never sure of what truly fits. They may remain stuck in relationships where they perform roles instead of showing authenticity. Many describe feeling like imposters in their own lives. The generational cycle. Parents who were not seen often repeat the pattern. They dismiss their children's individuality because no one accepted theirs. Breaking this cycle requires courage. It requires parents to do the work of seeing their children even when it feels uncomfortable. The right way to handle this is 1. Observe without judgment. Watch who your child really is. Pay attention to their interests, temperament, and style. Do not rush to change them. 2. Encourage exploration. Give children space to try new things. Allow them to pursue passions even if they are different from your own. 3. Validate uniqueness. Say, I love that you are creative, or I see how thoughtful you are. Affirm individuality directly. 4. Balance guidance with freedom. Boundaries are important, but they should not erase personality. Guide behavior without crushing identity. 5. Check your motives. Ask yourself, am I pushing this because it is what my child wants or because it is what I want? 6. Repair when needed. If you realize you dismissed individuality, own it. Say, I should have listened more. I want to understand you better now. Closing reflection. Not seeing who your child really is does not just stifle creativity. It crushes the very spirit that makes them human. It leaves them disconnected from themselves, anxious, ashamed, and unsure of their worth. Every child deserves to be seen, not as a reflection of their parents, but as their own person. The right way to handle this is honor individuality, Nurture authenticity and love children as they are, not as you wish they were. Because a child who is truly seen grows into an adult who can live freely, without shame, and without the prison of someone else's expectations. Chapter 19: Emotional Dumping on Kids. Making them therapists instead of children. Parents are supposed to be the safe place. They are the ones children turn to when the world feels overwhelming. But sometimes the roles get reversed. Instead of the parent supporting the child becomes the parent's confidant, counselor, or therapist. This is called emotional dumping, and it is a subtle but powerful form of role reversal that leaves deep scars. Children are not equipped to carry adult pain. When they are forced into that role, their innocence is stolen, and their emotional development is distorted. What emotional dumping looks like. Emotional dumping is not the same as showing emotion in front of children. Children can handle seeing their parents sad, angry, or stressed if it is expressed in healthy ways. The problem is when the parent unloads their unfiltered emotions onto the child, using them as the main source of comfort. Examples include a parent crying to a child about marital problems, saying things like, "You are the only one who understands me." A parent venting to a child about financial struggles, creating fear and helplessness. A parent using a child as a sounding board for anger at work or family members. A divorced parent confiding in their child about how awful the other parent is. A parent oversharing personal pain that is far beyond the child's developmental capacity to process. The key is this: emotional dumping crosses boundaries. It turns children into emotional caretakers instead of letting them just be children. How the child experiences it. At first, some children may feel special when a parent opens up to them. They may feel important, needed, even proud. But this quickly becomes overwhelming. They realize that they are carrying emotions too heavy for their age. The child learns, "I am responsible for my parent's feelings. If I do not listen or help, my parent will fall apart. My own needs are less important than theirs. It is my job to fix people." This belief system becomes the foundation of codependency. The child grows up hyper-attuned to others' emotions while neglecting their own. The long-term damage. Parentification. Emotional dumping is a form of emotional parentification. The child becomes the caregiver. This leads to burnout, resentment, and loss of childhood. 2. Chronic guilt. The child feels guilty for having needs, believing that caring for themselves means abandoning the parent. 3. Difficulty with boundaries. Children raised as emotional therapists often grow into adults who cannot say no. They fear disappointing others or being abandoned. 4. Attraction to unhealthy relationships. Adults from these backgrounds are drawn to people who need fixing. They often end up with partners who are emotionally unstable, replicating the childhood role. 5. Suppressed emotions. Because they focus so much on the parent's needs, these children learn to bury their own feelings. As adults, they struggle to identify or express emotions. 6. Anxiety and depression. The constant responsibility for adult emotions creates stress that children are not equipped to handle. This often leads to lifelong anxiety and depression. Everyday scenarios. A child hears every detail about their parents' divorce, becoming the friend and comforter. A teenager listens night after night as their parent complains about money, feeling powerless to help. A child is told that they are the only reason a parent keeps going, carrying unbearable pressure. A parent tells their child about adult betrayals, heartbreaks, or secrets, forcing them into silence and loyalty. The silent message. The silent message of emotional dumping is, "Your role is to take care of me." This message inverts the parent-child relationship, leaving the child unmoored. Stories that stay with us. A woman recalls being her mother's confidant during her parents' messy divorce. She was told every detail about infidelity, money fights, and custody battles. As an adult, she feels exhausted in every relationship, always the caretaker, never the cared for. A man remembers his father crying to him about work stress, saying, "You are the only one I can talk to." Today, he struggles with intimacy, fearing that every relationship will demand emotional caretaking. Another adult shares that their mother often told them, "You are my rock." At the time, it felt like love, but now they realize it was pressure. They were never allowed to break down, to be vulnerable, or to be a child. Why parents do it. Parents who emotionally dump are often overwhelmed. They may lack adult support, relying on children because they are available and loyal. Some do it unconsciously, repeating cycles from their own childhood. Others are selfish or immature, prioritizing their own needs over boundaries. Sometimes divorce, poverty, or trauma makes emotional dumping more likely. A single parent who feels isolated may lean on their child for comfort, but understandable circumstances do not erase the harm. Children should never be the main source of emotional support for their parents. Why therapy cannot fully fix it. Therapy helps adults recognize that their parents' emotions were never their responsibility. It can teach boundaries, self-care, and healthier relationship patterns. But therapy cannot erase the years spent carrying adult pain. The nervous system remembers the fear of abandonment, the guilt for having needs, the compulsion to fix others. Many adults raised this way describe feeling exhausted in relationships. They want to be cared for, but do not know how. They are uncomfortable receiving support because they were conditioned to give, not to receive. Research on parentification and emotional dumping research confirms the harm. Studies on parentification show that children who serve as emotional supports for parents are at higher risk of depression, anxiety, and difficulties with intimacy. According to the Journal of Child and Family Studies, emotional parentification is one of the strongest predictors of poor psychological outcomes. Children who act as therapists are not praised for being mature. They are robbed of their right to be children. Everyday consequences in adulthood. Adults who were therapists to their parents often become therapists to their friends and partners, never asking for reciprocity. They may feel guilt when resting, as if they are betraying others. They may avoid vulnerability, fearing that their needs will be dismissed. Many struggle with identity, never knowing who they are outside of caregiving. The generational cycle. Parents who were emotionally dumped on often repeat the cycle. They learn to survive by being caretakers, so they unconsciously turn their children into caretakers too. Breaking this cycle requires awareness and courage. It requires parents to find adult outlets for their emotions instead of burdening their children. The right way to handle this is 1. Seek adult support. Therapy, friends, support groups, and community are the right places for emotional processing. Children cannot fill this role. 2. Share age-appropriate emotions. It is fine to let children see you sad or stressed, but do not unload the details or ask them to fix it. Say, "I am upset, but I am handling it," instead of giving them the full story. 3. Protect their innocence. Do not involve children in marital problems, financial stress, or adult conflicts. Shield them from burdens that are not theirs. 4. Encourage their feelings, not yours. Make space for their emotions. Ask how they feel instead of making every conversation about your struggles. 5. Repair if you cross the line. If you realize you dumped emotions on your child, apologize. Say, "I put too much on you. That was not fair. I should have leaned on adults instead." Number 6. Teach boundaries by modeling them. Show children that it is healthy to have support systems, to ask for help, and to separate adult and child roles. Closing reflection. Children should never be therapists. They should never be the ones carrying adult pain or holding their parents' world together. Emotional dumping may feel like connection in the moment, but in reality, it robs children of safety, innocence, and the chance to be kids. The right way to handle this is let children be children. Seek adult support for adult problems. Protect your child's emotional space and nurture their right to grow without carrying your burdens. Because a child who is allowed to be a child grows into an adult who is not crushed by guilt, exhaustion, or shame, but free to live their own life. Chapter 20, Financial and Practical Neglect. Burdening children with adult worries. Children should never have to carry the weight of survival. Their job is to grow, to learn, and to play, not to figure out how the bills will get paid or whether there will be food on the table. Yet many children are forced into adult concerns far too early because of financial and practical neglect. This form of neglect does not always look dramatic. There may not be outright abandonment. The refrigerator might not be completely empty, but the constant undercurrent of instability and responsibility shapes children in profound ways. What financial and practical neglect looks like. Financial and practical neglect takes many forms, some obvious and some hidden. A parent spends money recklessly, leaving children unsure if the rent will be paid. A child is forced to grow up quickly, managing household tasks that the parent should handle. Utilities are shut off repeatedly, and the children are left cold in the dark or embarrassed at school. A child overhears constant fights about money and feels responsible for fixing it. A teenager takes a job not for spending money, but because the family depends on their paycheck. Children wear clothes that are far too small or go without basic hygiene items, not because of unavoidable poverty, but because parents mismanage resources. In some cases, families genuinely struggle with poverty, and children feel the weight of scarcity even when parents do their best. In other cases, neglect comes from choices, addiction, irresponsibility, or prioritizing wants over needs. Either way, children end up carrying burdens that crush their spirit. How the child experiences it. Children do not have the perspective to separate their parents' failures from their own worth. They assume responsibility for whatever goes wrong. If the electricity is cut off, they wonder if they asked for too much. If there is no food, they wonder if they are a burden. The child learns, I must take care of myself because no one else will. I cannot trust that my needs will be met. I have to grow up fast. My worth depends on not asking for too much. Instead of feeling carefree, children raised in financial and practical neglect live with constant anxiety. Every day is survival mode. The long-term damage 1. Chronic anxiety. The nervous system of a child who does not know whether their needs will be met becomes wired for fear. As adults, they often live with financial anxiety even when stable. 2. Over-responsibility. Children who had to manage adult concerns grow up to overfunction in relationships. They become the planners, fixers, and caretakers, unable to relax. 3. Distrust of abundance. Even when successful, these adults often feel unsafe. They may hoard money, overwork, or sabotage opportunities because security feels foreign. 4. Low self-worth. Children who grew up feeling like burdens often internalize shame. They believe their needs are too much. 5. Difficulty receiving help. Adults raised this way struggle to ask for or accept support. They learned early that they could rely only on themselves. 6. Risk of repeating the cycle. Without intervention, these adults may replicate financial chaos either through poor management or through avoidance of financial realities. Everyday scenarios. A child pretends not to be hungry at school because they know there is not enough food at home. A teenager skips field trips or sports because they cannot afford the fees while their parents spend money on unnecessary things. A child stays home to care for siblings while parents disappear for hours, leaving them in charge. A young adult recalls the shame of wearing the same torn shoes for years while classmates mock them. The silent message. The silent message of financial and practical neglect is, your basic needs are not secure. This message teaches children to live in fear and to suppress their desires. Stories that stay with us. A woman remembers begging her parents to buy deodorant and feeling humiliated at school when they ignored her. She now overcompensates, obsessing about hygiene and appearance, still haunted by the shame. A man recalls working full-time at 15 to keep his family afloat. While it made him responsible, it also left him burned out and bitter. He never got to be a teenager. Another adult shares that their parents constantly borrowed money from them once they started earning. Now, as an adult, they fear spending money on themselves and feel guilty for enjoying stability. Why parents do it? Sometimes financial neglect is rooted in genuine poverty. Parents may be working multiple jobs yet still unable to meet basic needs, but often it stems from poor decisions, addiction, gambling, impulsive spending, or refusal to plan. Practical neglect can stem from mental health struggles, immaturity, or simply not prioritizing the child's well-being. Parents may minimize the impact by saying, "You turned out strong," or "We did the best we could." But survival is not the same as thriving, and children should never have to carry burdens that belong to adults. Why therapy cannot fully fix it. Therapy helps adults recognize that the instability of their childhood was not their fault. It can build healthier financial habits and reduce shame. But the imprint of fear runs deep. Adults who lived with financial neglect often describe panic when bills arrive, even when they can afford to pay. Their nervous systems remember the instability. Therapy cannot erase those early scars. Research on financial neglect. Research shows that financial instability in childhood is linked to higher rates of mental health struggles, including anxiety and depression. According to studies published in the Journal of Family Psychology, children raised in environments of financial neglect are more likely to experience academic difficulties, low self-esteem, and disrupted attachment. Practical neglect, such as forcing children into caretaker roles, has also been shown to predict burnout, codependency, and struggles with intimacy in adulthood. Everyday consequences in adulthood. Adults raised with financial neglect often overwork, terrified of losing security. They may avoid spending money even on necessities, hoarding as a way to feel safe. Some repeat patterns of chaos, mismanaging money because stability feels foreign. Many feel intense guilt when prioritizing their own needs, believing they are selfish. The generational cycle. Financial and practical neglect often repeats. Parents who grew up unstable may either recreate chaos or swing to the opposite extreme, becoming controlling and rigid with money. Breaking the cycle requires awareness, humility, and often outside support. The right way to handle this is 1. Prioritize basic needs. Food, shelter, clothing, hygiene, and safety come before extras. Meeting children's needs is not optional. 2. Be honest, but not overwhelming. It is healthy to teach children about money, but do not burden them with adult worries. Say, we are budgeting this month, not, we may lose the house. 3. Seek help. If poverty is unavoidable, reach out to community resources, food banks, schools, or relatives. Children should never be the safety net. 4. Shield children from adult responsibility. Do not make children the bill payers, babysitters, or decision makers. Let them be kids. 5. Model healthy habits. Show children how to save, plan, and manage resources responsibly. Demonstrate stability instead of chaos. 6. Repair when you fall short. If you could not provide stability, acknowledge it. Tell your child, I am sorry you carried more than you should have. It was not fair. Closing reflection. Financial and practical neglect teaches children that survival depends on their own sacrifice. It robs them of safety and innocence, forcing them to grow up too soon. The scars last, shaping their self-worth, their relationship with money, and their ability to trust security. The right way to handle this is protect children from adult burdens. Prioritize their basic needs, seek help when needed, and shield them from instability, because children are not built to carry the weight of survival. They are meant to be children. Chapter 21. Conditional Love. The Wound That Lasts a Lifetime. Every child comes into the world needing love as much as they need food, water, and air. Love is not an accessory for childhood. It is the foundation. When love is unconditional, a child grows up with a sense of safety, belonging, and worth. When love is conditional, tied to performance, behavior, or compliance, the foundation cracks. Children learn that they are not inherently worthy of love. They learn they must earn it. This belief does not fade with age. It follows them for life, shaping how they see themselves, how they form relationships, and how they navigate the world. What conditional love looks like. Conditional love is not always spoken directly, but children hear it loud and clear. A child is praised only when they achieve academically, but ignored or criticized otherwise. A teenager is shown affection only when they behave, but shunned when they push back. A parent withdraws warmth when disappointed, using coldness as punishment. A child feels that affection depends on matching the parent's values, religion, or lifestyle. A child receives attention only when they meet expectations, never when they express their true self. It may not be stated outright as, I love you when you succeed and not when you fail, but that is how it lands in the child's heart, how the child experiences it. Children are experts at reading the emotional climate of their homes. They notice which behaviors earn smiles and hugs and which lead to withdrawal or rejection. Over time, they begin to perform for love rather than exist freely. The child learns, love is not guaranteed. I must earn acceptance. If I am myself, I will lose love. Affection is a prize, not a right. The result is a constant undercurrent of fear. Love should feel like a soft place to land. Instead, it becomes a tightrope. The long-term damage 1. Fragile self-worth. Children raised on conditional love often believe they are not good enough at their core. Their worth is tied to performance or compliance. 2. Perfectionism. To preserve love, they strive for perfection. They fear mistakes because mistakes could mean rejection. 3. Fear of vulnerability. If being authentic risks losing love, they learn to hide their true selves. This makes intimacy in adulthood difficult. 4. Codependency. They become experts in scanning others' needs, twisting themselves into shapes that earn affection, even at the cost of selfhood. 5. Chronic anxiety. The fear of losing love never fades. Even in adulthood, they may panic when relationships feel uncertain. 6. Difficulty trusting love. Unconditional love feels foreign. Adults raised on conditional love may sabotage healthy relationships because acceptance without strings feels impossible to believe. Everyday scenarios. A child brings home a poor grade and is met with silence or disappointment rather than support. A teenager expresses an interest in art, but the parent mocks it, only praising pursuits they value. A parent says, "I love you, but," followed by criticism or demands. A child is ignored emotionally until they perform in a way the parent wants. Each moment reinforces the same lesson: love must be earned. The silent message. The silent message of conditional love is, you are not enough as you are. This is the deepest wound a parent can leave. Stories that stay with us. A woman recalls that her parents hugged her when she brought home good grades but withdrew when she struggled. As an adult, she feels invisible unless she is performing at a high level. A man remembers being told, "We love you when you do the right thing." He grew into an adult who never says no, terrified of disappointing anyone. Another adult shares that their parents praised them for excelling in sports, but ignored their love for music. Today, they hide hobbies they enjoy, fearing ridicule or rejection. Why parents do it. Many parents do not realize they are practicing conditional love. They believe they are motivating their children. They think pressure builds discipline. Others repeat patterns they experienced in their own childhoods. Some parents tie their own self-worth to their child's performance, so love becomes tangled with pride and shame. But at its root, conditional love comes from fear. Fear that without control, the child will fail. Fear that unconditional acceptance will make them weak. Fear that the child will reflect poorly on the parent. Why therapy cannot fully fix it. Therapy can help adults recognize that they deserved unconditional love. It can teach them to separate self-worth from performance. But the wound of conditional love is deep. Many adults find it difficult to believe in unconditional acceptance, even when it is offered. Their nervous systems are wired for fear, not trust. Therapy can help with healing, but the scar remains. Adults raised on conditional love often spend years relearning how to believe they are enough without earning it. Research on conditional love. Research confirms the harm. Studies in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology show that children who perceive parental love as conditional are more likely to suffer from low self-esteem, anxiety, and resentment. Even when they comply with expectations, they feel less satisfied and less connected to their parents. Another study found that conditional love can produce short-term compliance, but long-term rebellion and estrangement. Children may conform while young, but eventually push away from parents, sometimes cutting ties altogether. Everyday consequences in adulthood. Adults who grew up with conditional love often chase success obsessively, believing only achievement makes them worthy. They may stay in toxic relationships because love with strings feels familiar. They may parent their own children with the same patterns, praising only achievements rather than character. Many describe never feeling comfortable in their own skin, always waiting for rejection. The generational cycle. Conditional love often runs in families. Parents who were raised this way repeat it without realizing it. They believe tough love is the same as real love. Breaking this cycle requires conscious awareness and courage. It requires a parent to love their child in the way they themselves were denied. The right way to handle this is 1. Love without conditions. Say, "I love you," not because of performance, but because of existence. Love them when they succeed and when they fail. 2. Celebrate authenticity. Encourage children to be themselves, even when their interests or choices differ from your expectations. 3. Separate behavior from worth. Discipline actions without attacking identity. That choice was not okay is very different from you are not okay. 4. Show affection freely. Do not withhold hugs, warmth, or attention as punishment. Children need steady love to feel secure. 5. Repair when you fall short. If you realize you tied love to performance, admit it. Say, I love you no matter what. I am sorry if I made you feel otherwise. 6. Model unconditional acceptance. Show children by example that mistakes do not erase worth. Treat yourself with compassion so they learn to do the same. Closing reflection. Conditional love is not love in its truest form. It is manipulation disguised as care. It teaches children that they are only worthy when they perform, comply, or succeed. This wound lasts a lifetime. It shapes identity, distorts relationships, and fills adulthood with fear. The right way to handle this is give children unconditional love. Let them know that they are enough as they are, not because of what they do. Celebrate their individuality, protect their authenticity, and love them without strings. Because unconditional love is the soil in which children grow into adults who are free, secure, and whole. A letter to parents. Dear parents, parenting is the most important and difficult job any of us will ever take on. No one comes into it perfectly prepared, and no one does it without mistakes. But there are mistakes that, if left unchecked, wound children in ways that last for life. I am asking you to pause and truly look at yourself. Think about the patterns described in these chapters. Do you shame your child instead of guiding them? Do you compare them to siblings? Do you dismiss their feelings, withhold affection, or explode in anger? Do you place your own burdens on their shoulders? Do you love them only when they succeed? These behaviors may not feel extreme in the moment, but they leave marks. A child's nervous system is shaped by every interaction. Their sense of self is carved by your words, your tone, and your actions. Even silence teaches. If you recognize yourself in these pages, this is not about shame. This is about responsibility. The truth is, if you are repeating patterns that harm your children, you cannot afford to ignore them. It is your duty to seek help. Healing your own wounds, finding healthier ways to cope, and learning to parent with compassion is not optional. It is essential. Children deserve parents who can regulate themselves, who can love unconditionally, and who can teach resilience without breaking spirits. When you do the hard work of resolving your own issues, you are not only freeing yourself, you are giving your child the gift of a healthier childhood and setting them up to become a mentally strong and successful adult. Do not wait until it is too late. Seek therapy if you need it. Join support groups. Read, learn, grow. Apologize when you fall short. Your willingness to change is not weakness. It is love in action. Your children will carry the imprint of your parenting for the rest of their lives. Let that imprint be one of safety, strength, and unconditional love. With hope, Magdalena Szopa.